Beasley's GoPro. There you go.
I have so many cool action jobs.
All right, guys. Hey, I want to thank you for joining us on this episode of the Livewell here at Fish North Georgia. For those of you that are already here, we thank you for spending your time and watching us tonight. And those that will be watching at a later date on our YouTube channel, I want to say thank you very much for you. While I've got you, I want you to give us a follow on Facebook and at Fish North Georgia and the Fish North Georgia group page, which we actually went over 6,000 members today. So that's pretty cool. And
the Fish North Georgia Instagram, we're closing in on 4,000.
That's right. One of the cool things, I know a lot of Facebook groups have a lot of large numbers, but I can say that our 6,000 are very active. So I'm very proud of that. So, yeah, you can follow us there on Facebook, on Instagram at Fish North Georgia. Follow us, True Grit Tackle, on Facebook and Instagram. And, of course, if you're watching this on YouTube, make sure you subscribe and hit that little, I guess, what is it? Is it still a bell?
Sure.
Is it still a bell? Hit that bell so you can be notified of any future content that we're going to drop. So this episode tonight is sponsored by the good people at Nofo Brew Co., located north of Cumming on Highway 400. Fine craft beer and good times. Tell them the guys at Fish North Georgia sent you. So got a couple samples of, this is Snow Ghost sitting up here like that, but it makes a great thing. Great beer. Hear a lot of good stuff about it. My kids definitely love going up there. So that's all I got to say about that. So they definitely enjoyed that. So go ahead and mark your calendars for next Thursday, the 16th. We got Dana Smith coming back on. He's been on the show a couple of times. Big time fisherman up on north end of Lanier.
Yeah,
he spends most.
He's all over the place.
He is, but he loves the north end of Lanier and catches everything.
He had some stuff from Alabama the other day. He looked like he was schwacking them
because of it with his son. So he like Logan. All that stuff over there. So and also a special episode, December 23rd. It's a Thursday night. For those of you who are Seinfeld fans, it is Festivus. So we're going to have our second annual episode called The Airing of Grievances, all right, to celebrate Festivus right before Christmas. And that is the night we can just complain about anything we want to. So you guys definitely mark that on your calendar. We've already been talking about that beforehand, and definitely we have some we're going to rag some.
We're working on it. Start your list, boys.
Start your list about what you want to complain about right there. So Jeremiah Giles, that is a bait sanity right there. I'm going to say a little bit more about it. Also, Dana is watching FCP Fishing right there. So, leave it to Jeremiah to spy out the swim bait. It's definitely here, and we're going to give it away tonight. I'll talk about that here in just a second. I want to mention something. If you come over to the shop at Fish North Georgia, we finally got our swag in. We've got short sleeve T-shirts, long sleeve shirts, sweatshirts in the True Grit and Fish North Georgia logos on them, and of course we've got the hats and everything. You guys need to come around and make great Christmas presents. But we're glad that we finally got that. A lot of people come in the store and they want to know when we're going to get shirts and stuff like that. Well, we got them. So they are here. So definitely come by and look at that. And about 9 p.m. tonight, about midway through the show, we're going to be doing a drawing, the raffles to benefit the Hurd family. And we will be giving away a Springfield Saint AR-15 in one. And in the fishing raffle, you will get, of course, as Jeremiah's already spotted it out, this Bait Sanity Glide Bait, the Explorer Guide. We got a Revo Rocket, Abu Garcia, a 10 to 1 to 1. Very fast for you guys like to doing that. And we got a 7-foot medium Veritas rod, casting rod, and that's going to be in the fishing package. So we're going to be doing those drawings about midway through the show, right about 9 p.m. All right, so got a great episode for you tonight. Paul, who is normally behind the scenes, is out tonight. We got Ryan back there.
Hello, everybody.
Ryan's going to wreck it. So I got you a blue hat, Eddie Williams. So and Ron got a hat yesterday. Brian, we do got hoodies. I'm not sure if I got one in your size. Though.
Koozies,
keychains. No, I'm not saying that. We got some large ones. But we got to get someone for the bigger boys. No, listen, I'm not saying about Brian. But look, Tad's like, what? He don't even know what's going on.
Don't even know what you got into, young man.
You have no idea what you got into tonight. Got a couple more. I'll go ahead and announce everybody, and then I got a few more announcements. Of course, CTBs is in the house.
Absolutely.
All right, Camel Toe's here.
Oh
so
my God!
And our
it's sticking.
That needs to go away. That needs to go away.
When he learns to wear shorts that fit.
Oh my goodness!
When he learns to wear shorts that fit, and look how he's sitting tonight. He's got under the table.
Look closer to the table. Look closer to the table.
So kind of odd for Paul to be back on that side of the camera. Hey, it's all right now. Hey,
I'm kind of an odd dude.
Yeah, you are an odd dude.
Very.
We love you. I like you. So anyway, Tad Murdoch. He's the owner of Georgia Wild Trout. He's in the house, and so We're going to be talking about trout. We're going to be talking about bass too. So it's a little bit of everything for everyone. He is a fisheries biologist, and he graduated from LSU. He actually fished on their bass team, and he is currently the bass fishing coach for Peachtree Ridge.
Yes, sir.
Right there. So a lot of good stuff that we're going to be covering, and you guys definitely, if you got, see, I told you, Brian said a large one even fit his left side. Brian, you know I love you, so there you go. Dane Hunter, what's up, buddy? Anyway, we're going to be talking about that stuff. I got a couple more announcements I want to get through. Guys,
Finally,
what are you laughing at there?
Dane.
Yeah, Dane. So here we go. I want to do this about the upcoming Jimbo Southern Outdoor Fishing Seminar and Expo. All right, January 14th, 15th, and 16th at the Lanier Conference Center. Guys, it's a really cool thing. Got a lot of great companies there like Shimano, Humminbird, a lot of local companies. Lanier Baits, Hammonds will be there. We will be there as well with True Grit and Fish North Georgia. You have Cast, Real Media, and Lanier Laser. There's a lot of things. Jimbo's got a Facebook page that you can check and see who's coming. But $10 entry at the door. Also, they're going to be doing these classes for $20. We'll be trying to list some of those out. So if you get a specific thing you want to learn a little bit more about, you can go take that class while you're there. But we definitely want you to come hang out with us.
Has he announced the lineup for that yet, or is he still
No,
working
that's
on
what
it?
I'm saying. So that's going to be coming out. So we'll be doing that. I don't really know the lineup.
He's had some heavy hitters in the past. I
Well,
think.
Latimer has been there. Brian Latimer's
Yeah.
been there.
Yeah.
Oh, if
Latimer.
Eli comes back, that's worth it
Eli
just for
was there. I
him.
don't know if he's coming back this year.
I heard somebody through the grapevine got asked last night.
Who got asked last night?
Mr. Millsaps himself.
Jesse
Oh.
Millsap.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, there you go, Mr. True Grit.
I'm going to be there with him
Fat
for
boy swag.
high
That
school.
Friday night, we're going to be doing the live well instead of doing it on Thursday night. That Friday night, we're going to be doing the live well straight from the expo. And then at some point Saturday, we'll probably go live again. But definitely going to do that on Friday night. So, and then, like I said, we will be there. And then the following weekend is the East Tennessee Fishing Expo. And True Grit will be up there as well. So if you guys want to come up to that, that's one of the biggest ones out there. We're going to be there. We're going to have a good time. We're really going to show them Tennessee guys how to do things. Probably get kicked out of the state while we're there, but you know it's all good. But we're going to have a lot of fun with that. So I hope you guys plan on, hey, do both of them. I mean, it's January. You got nothing else to do. Deer season's almost over. It's going to be cold. So come see us and hang out with us. I want to announce the winners of the guide trips. Guys, I want to first say I appreciate every one of you who bid. You know, there can only be one winner of each one, but a lot of you guys stepped forward, including the guides themselves. So I'm going to announce the guides and the winner just to kind of give them recognition. So Bill Payne, the legend, Tracy Jackson won that with $600. So we appreciate that. Paul March Jr., he got the big prize right there. Ken Phillips won it with an $800 bid. Jimbo, of course, is doing a half-day trip. Chad Orr won that with $450. Kaz Anderson up on Chateau. Ken Phillips won that again.
That's
$500, man.
Ken Phillips getting all the juice.
He is getting the juice.
Getting all the juice.
I need to
Really
make
gotta get him.
I need to make friends with him. Alex Green, our buddy Josh, won that with $500. Snake stuck in at the last minute. Ryan Sheffield, somebody who's actually won the guy. I'm just kidding. Brian Marcuson won that with $375. Jeremy Eaton, that's that Burton trip. David Newcomb, $375. Kevin Underwood, Mark Spa won that with $300 bid.
All right.
There you go. LJ, Chad Orr won that with $500. Jonathan Farmer, Todd Anderson won that with $350. Phil Johnson.
Todd
over
Anderson
here.
about to go catch a donk.
Yeah, he's gonna catch a donk because that's going to be up on Notley.
Yeah.
And
With Farmer?
With Farmer.
Oh,
Farmer can.
he's
Farmer
gonna make
can
it
fish
happen.
Notley. Phil Johnson, Brant Kessler won that with $400, and Jesse Benson, Mr. Scott Meister of Big Canoe won that with $200. And so, guys, I didn't even add that up, but again, we appreciate every one of you, especially those of you did that, those of you that joined the raffle. All that money is going to go to the Herd family like that and help them out. So, Paul and I were talking upstairs. We think we want to try to do something like this every November, where we can get the guides. We'll do a raffle or something like that just to help.
I think it's a great idea.
It is a great idea. I think we should do that. So, I think now I have mentioned everything. So I think it's time we get to actually talking about fishing. So, you know, if anything I missed, CT, you good? You can sit up, buddy. I mean, it's okay. Ain't nobody gonna make fun of you tonight.
They can't see
So-
your shorts.
Oh, my
So you can't see shorts. But anyway,
Yeah, I can't get away
everybody
from
out there, badunkadunk. I don't know what that is, Tyler, and who you're talking to. Maybe that's to you too, huh? You're just the sex symbol on the show. All right. So we had to have the He's trying to grow a beard too. Look at that.
Oh, my
He is trying. We've been
goodness.
making fun of him. He looks like he's
Chin's
Amish.
getting cold when you're
His
running.
chin's getting cold in that way.
Was there a windowless van in that Raffle?
Well, okay, there we go. So anyway,
Oh,
9 p.m. tonight, there around bouts, we'll be doing the drawing for the hey, Mark Spa. Hey, thanks, and you said my name right. Well, it don't happen often, all right? So most of the time I can't pronounce anything. But, again, we appreciate everybody at Fish North Georgia on our group page and the guides and all of you who are willing to y'all cranked out some pretty good dough, but you're going to get some good trips out of that like that. So we definitely appreciate you. So do you like peach fuzz better, or do you
That's
like
peach fuzz.
you like camel toe? We'll do one.
Oh
of
my
the
god,
Just the
this is horrible.
the
man.
fuzz. The fuzz. That ain't
The
bad.
fuzz?
The fuzz. You could do worse than the fuzz.
Yeah,
Make that
that's,
choice
That's
right
better
now.
than CT. That's better than.
You want to be called the fuzz?
That's better. I feel like that's more acceptable around.
Around who?
Around these guys.
Around
Yeah,
who,
these
sir?
guys don't.
Someone has to look good. Young gun carrying the room. That's true. Listen, we done passed our prime now. Back in the day, we could carry it, right? Back in the day. So anyway, all right, let's get started talking with Tad. Again, he is a fisheries biologist. So any of you guys that have questions, Kaz is watching tonight. That's what I've always called.
Call the cops the fuzz.
Oh yeah, you
Really?
be the cops. That is the fuzz. Yeah, you're back to camel toe.
Dang
There you go.
it.
You're
I'm
back
just
to
so
camel toe.
trying to get away from that name. man.
So anyway, we're gonna talk. If you guys got any biology related questions, the man's got a degree in it. He said he had the choice between LSU and Michigan. He went to LSU to get his degree in fisheries biologist, so probably a good choice. He said he didn't like the cold.
Yeah, didn't handle the cold well in high school.
Yeah, so I know you bass guys. We don't want to run you guys off. So if you got questions like that, we're gonna talk some trout. And that's one of the reasons why Paul is on here tonight, because he's far more of an expert at that than I am. You chased the trout.
And I'm not much of an expert.
Yeah, I'm not. So we're trying to learn. We will be carrying.
I've been
trout
known to
stuff
catch a
from the store.
trout.
You do. You take some pretty pictures.
I've been known to catch a
Yeah,
trout.
he's
So-
better than he says.
Anyway, so we don't. And look, one thing about this show, man, you just got to jump in there. 'Cause
Oh,
you just got to
hop
jump
in
in there
whenever.
with us, and
Yeah.
we'll talk all night. So first of all, tell us a little bit about Georgia wild trout. What do you do?
So we're a guide service. We go everywhere in North Georgia. Dahlonega, LJ, typically where most of our business kind of happens. You don't really need to stray far away from there. Do some beginner trips, just kind of learn how to cast and whatnot, below the dam there on the hooch.
Right.
So kind of just bounce around there. Stockers, wild fish, private waters, a little bit of it all, depending on what y'all are looking for, what kind of experience.
Okay, so you can cater to anybody of any skill level
Yeah, absolutely. Most of our stuff is with beginners.
with beginners. Okay.
Yeah, we get a lot of tourism from down further south,
Right.
and they want to learn how to throw a fly for trout.
How frustrating is that?
You know,
Be honest.
it's everywhere. We've had 14-year-old kids that love bass fishing, saltwater fishing down there. They come up and they're quick learners. They listen well and all that. Then we have some, middle-aged, older ones where they're up in the trees all day. They're fishing for squirrels, not trout. So we see the whole gamut.
Who's harder, men or women?
Men.
Men or
But bass fishermen and saltwater fishermen, they come in with too many bad habits a lot of times. So we have to break the habits and then start building from scratch. The women are usually blank slates. We'll listen, whatever you say,
right?
and just nail it the first time.
Okay.
A lot of the bass guys too, they get a little bit too they wham back that hook set, which can be all right.
Big time
but
hook
then
set.
they want to start muscling the fish. You can't do that. You're done. You get a big one on, he's gone.
We do have a question. This is more of a biology question from Farmer.
Yep.
What is the long-term effects of ick like in Chattooga, where it's on 90% of the fish? That's that that lesion or whatever.
Yeah, so it's a bacterial infection or fungus.
Okay.
Kind of infects their brain. It doesn't last too long. Usually a season. It'll after a colder winter. Usually it'll fall away. It's a bigger problem when they're growing them in the hatcheries. So you need really dense fish populations for it to spread.
Okay.
And once they're in the river, it kind of.
So trout get this too.
Oh yeah, big trout. Yeah, bass can get it too. Usually you don't see it as much in bass as you
Yeah.
would.
There's a couple of
trout.
lakes that they've got it going on right there. So,
Gill ice is a little bit more tough because it can spread further. That's why I'm to the striper on Lanier.
yeah,
They're having a couple problems with it on some
What
streams in
causes
North
that?
Georgia. Gill ice?
yeah.
I don't know where it stems from. Again, I would assume hatcheries.
Okay.
It forms just where you get same thing. You know, with diseases with people, they start in cities, and then they'll spread out. The hatcheries are essentially the cities, those dense populations.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
From there, it'll
I've
start.
heard that too. That it's people transferring water, like bait tanks coming across from
Yes.
like one lake that's got them.
Stocking
Yeah.
with fly fishing.
It's kind of unintentional.
Felt boots. The felt on the
Felt,
bottom
yeah.
of your boots will grab that
Right.
stuff.
Clean your
pop
live
that
loads.
question up right there. I knew we were going to get some good. What effects does a lack of oxygen have on fish below the dams at Lanier and Toccoa? Does it bother the fish at all, or more at certain times of the year? And this would be more of a trout question.
Lack of oxygen is not too much of an issue. Once it goes through those turbines, I mean,
Yeah,
it's pretty well
spinning up with a
oxygenated.
bunch.
I know it happened at Blue Ridge a few years ago, and it killed a lot of the big fish.
Yeah.
So Blue Ridge isn't what it was prior to 5 years ago.
TVA has a bad habit of when they need to work on the dam, they'll sluice water instead of pulling it through, and they'll send that hot surface
top.
water down the tailwater, and that does not have a positive effect
Right.
Yeah,
on those fish.
I should have said this earlier too. If you're watching on Facebook, when it comes up on our comments, it comes up as Facebook user. If you will go to StreamYard, www.streamyard.com/Facebook, and put in your name, and that way, unless you just want to remain, incognito right there. So but we'd love to be able to address you by your name. Ryan, scroll back up. There was a question about spotted bass. We'll get to trout, but I told you these bass guys are going to have a ton of questions tonight.
I can talk bass
I'm
too.
looking for the backward slash.
Oh, he's trying to.
StreamYard.com /backwards
Ryan
Facebook.
back there
Do I
running
need to
the
come
thing,
hit backward
and
slash for
can't
you,
find
Ryan?
the backward slash on the keyboard. All right, come on now.
my goodness.
Oh, Paul, go show Ryan the backward slash. That's terrible right there. We'll go ahead with Neil Scoggins' question. What can Georgia do as far as the fishery caretakers to grow bigger trophy-sized bass? Is it a grass and cover issue or something else? In your opinion.
There's a lot of factors that can go into that. The biggest one would kind of be bait density.
Okay.
Getting, so when I was living out in Texas, we had years where there was an extreme amount of bait in the lake.
Right.
And the bass, they were tough to catch for those years. I mean, why bite a lure when there's, bait in front of their nose all the time?
Right.
But after that bait population was kind of put into control, the bass were just huge.
Okay.
So, but yeah, it's more of kind of lake. It's more lake dynamics than the hatchery. They're just growing fingerlings. They have
Right.
nothing to do with getting the fish big.
Now, do you think, though, that the grass in some of these lakes, though, if they would add it, take away, would help it at all?
Grass helps. Grass is better for rearing more bait fish. They have plenty more places to hide. They can get bigger,
Right.
longer, and then the bass, we'll see that growth trend too.
Did we get the backward slash thing fixed? Are we good with that? Scroll back up. There was a question about spotted bass that I want to go back up. It's on up for a little bit. We ain't talking whopper ploppers. You got to keep on going there, Ryan.
I'm trying.
Keep on going. You're doing a fine job. Okay, right there, Facebook user. Okay. I suspect spotted bass are primarily sight feeders. To what degree do you think they use their lateral line in feeding?
More than you would think, like those nighttime and low light ones, especially big ones. Big ones are feeding mostly nocturnally anyway, so they're going to use that lateral line a lot more than, say, a bass hanging around a dock or something feeding, throughout the day.
So the difference between a largemouth and a spot as far as visual feeding, which one is more visual feeder?
I would say spotted bass more generally because they're in clear water.
Gotcha.
You're not finding many spotted bass in really dirty water
Gotcha.
versus.
Let me throw the trout question out there because I know there's a couple of guys out there that actually tuned in tonight and said, hey, I'm going to watch a trout episode and these boys ain't talking nothing but bass. What about trout?
Trout extremely visible.
They're extreme. They use their eyes more than. Do they even have a lateral
absolutely.
line?
Oh, yeah, they do. They absolutely do. But they're very sight oriented.
Okay.
And they have very good. They'll still be low light feeders, and I mean it's crazy what they can see.
I always
in the
find it
water.
amazing some of these small flies that I see guys throwing.
Yeah.
Like booger size.
Need a
Shit,
magnifying
right there.
glass to get the line
Yeah.
through the
That's
hook hole.
crazy.
Yeah,
Okay.
I mean it's insane like that. So let's see.
Brown trout might feed like the stained water a little bit more. They're probably more lateral line oriented or can be.
Right.
They're more stalkers. They'll go eat. They're piscivores. They'll eat other fish.
Say that
As
again.
piscivores.
Piscivore.
So fish eaters, essentially.
Spell it.
P-I-S-C. Divorce.
But yeah, that sounds like me. Danny, when are you going to ask if a trout will bite a whopper plopper?
Oh, they will.
Oh, they will. There you go.
Very not talked about thing. A lot of people go, they want to throw their little rooster tails. If you go below the hooch with a, 6-inch Seville, it'll blow your mind what you'll catch.
I always throw a jerk bait for trout.
Jerk baits will.
Yeah,
whoop
full size
'em.
jerk bait.
Now
Go up
you're-
to North
Now
Carolina.
you're getting into the Hutchinsons.
People think trout's all
Well, they-
sissy fishing. I'll show you some flies bigger than anything I've ever thrown for bass. Most of the
Really?
time. Oh yeah.
Okay, and so where would you throw those?
Below the dams, great spot.
In-
There's
in the
big
water?
fish in the hooch. Yeah.
even
No,
below the Lemon Hooch?
I wouldn't go to any of these
Hilarious
tiny
spot.
North Georgia streams and throw them. But if you're fishing a spot where there's some 20-inch trout, go big.
What do you consider a trophy trout?
20 inches is kind of 20-inch trout, probably the same 5-6 pound largemouth. That's kind of how I
Kind of get
see
in
it.
that, and then 20 inches.
You get that
20
24
20 is
inches.
the benchmark.
Yeah,
That's if
20
you're talking about a big fish, it's
Yeah,
20 is where it's
24
at.
incher would probably be your 10 pounder.
Yeah,
so.
a 2-footers. Yeah, that's a serious fish.
Let me answer this question right here. Every time you switch this, I always lose. I don't hunt. I guess that's what it is. How do I get involved in tournament fishing? I'm 17 and don't own a boat. Well, I
Eric?
don't know. Huh?
Yeah.
What?
Well, I mean, this would be a good one for you too.
Yeah, I was about to say,
you do
Jake,
the high
you
school
did
fishing.
that.
Oh, yeah.
You did high school, so there we go.
I fished out of a little John boat, little plastic John boat when I was in high school. But nowadays, all these bass fishing teams are popping up at your school. If your high school doesn't already have a fishing team, maybe get with some of your gym coaches or find a teacher who's interested in bass fishing. There's going to be someone at your
Yeah.
school who knows a bass fisherman
That owns a
or is
boat.
interested, and that's who you need to.
Or
contact
find
with.
somebody who needs a partner.
Yeah,
There's a lot of people that need a partner.
Yeah.
BFL's co-angler. Fishing co-angler in any of these, what,
Yeah.
$100? That's an
ABA.
awesome experience.
And
Yeah.
actually, I got told by a lot of guys. Old Bill Payne said that some of the best lessons you can learn is being a co-angler.
Absolutely.
You can watch what the boater's doing, but it also teaches you a lot of patience off the back of the boat because you're having to try to catch.
That would
the
kill
fish that
me.
he can't.
No.
I know it's tough.
Not being able to make my own decisions.
I
I'd be
don't
like,
know.
mm.
Dane Mike can answer this because I know he's with the ABA 125. I don't know if they have an age restriction, if it's 18 or over, but it might be something you want to look at. They'll pair you with a boater when you go to these tournaments like that. But if you get into it, definitely just pay attention, and that's the best way. Just absorb it. One bad thing about being a co-angler is you are in the back of the boat, and those boaters, they're going to fish to their strengths, and they don't try to do it on purpose, but that, some will, but most of them are great guys and won't.
Mm-hmm.
But pay attention to what they're doing, and then, Bill Payne would say, just throw a shaky head off the back of the boat and drag
Fish slower than them.
it. Yeah, that's it. Just
Yeah.
throw a shaky head. So anyway, what is a good out-of-the-way small trout stream in North Georgia? All right, everybody's like, don't say it, don't say it.
So here's my
Good
big
luck.
tip on that. There's a ton.
I got a map upstairs. got a million
Look
of them.
for waterfalls that aren't named Tallulah or Amicalola, and go fish below and above them. Any of them. You can get on Google Maps and just type in waterfalls, and 50 pins will pop up. 90% of those have small trout above and below them.
Okay. Now, when you take a client out, are you basically? They say I want a wild trout.
Mhm.
Now, are you trying to go out for brooks, or are you trying to just catch browns and wild rainbows, or do they exist? I'm not a trout guy. I'm learning this as we go.
It depends on their skill level. Brook trout are spooky. Brook trout is like going on a stalking archery hunt.
they're right,
They
yeah.
can be. They are very in tune. If a leaf falls wrong and the shadow hits the water, you'll watch them scurry across. They're already hiding. Your cover's been blown.
Now, they're native to Georgia?
They're the only ones native
That's what I
to
was
Georgia.
going to say. That's the only native trout in
now,
Georgia.
now, there's a lot of wild rainbows. Wild brown trout are actually tougher for me to find a lot of times than
Right.
the brookies. But rainbows you can find in a lot of places. They're very willing to eat, but those wild fish again are very spooky. You got stealth is everything. That's the biggest thing I see new anglers make when they're fly fishing or just fishing on creeks. They'll walk right up to the pool, not worried about scaring the fish at all, and their chances are blown before they even make a cast.
Gotcha. I don't hunt. That in the comment section is Dane Hunter, and he's with the ABA 125, and he just said 14 or over with parental consent. So, and Farmer said he thinks it's 16, but 14, 16, either way, so you're eligible at 17. I would try to get in with these guys. They fish a lot of different lakes. If you're in one of the bigger ones where they fish, the 35 kind of stays to the northern lakes. I don't know exactly where you're located, but I definitely would recommend getting in with them guys. 'Cause like I said, most of them are really good guys, and just learn with them, get in the back of the boat. They actually pair you up, I think, with a different partner at each tournament. I think it's more of a draw system or something like that. So you'll get to meet a lot of good guys, and if you get paired with the right ones, you'll learn a lot of great stuff like that. So I think that would be, if I were going to get into big boat fishing, there's electric only clubs that you can get in and stuff like that. But I think
Isn't
that would be
there
the
high
best
school
way.
kayak fishing too?
I think
I've been
they are.
seeing
I think
stuff
they
There
are.
is, there is.
That's good entry.
I think
level.
that's just getting.
I mean, if
that
you
one
can't
up right
afford
there.
that bass boat, that's where
Yeah,
to go.
for sure.
Philip wants to know, what do you think of the 3 greatest challenges with getting the hooch healthier for trout?
Man, controlling the water releases has been a real problem the past few years. In the spring, they're generating or just releasing
Just
from
dumping
high
water.
water all
Yeah.
the time. And the insect productivity is just garbage when that happens. So a lot of those smaller fish aren't getting bigger. The other thing is there's just no regulation on catch and keep. Or like there is, but
Nobody's enforcing it.
it's not enforced where it needs to be, and like I said, it's not necessarily their fault. There's just a ton of people out fishing the river, and it's more of a cultural shift that needs to happen with catch and release rather than the catch and keep mentality.
Well, they go out there, they want them stockers, and I mean,
Absolutely.
don't get me
Yeah.
wrong, I like to eat them things too.
I don't have anything about the catch and keep, but there's certainly people
I
out
think-
there that will follow the stock truck and just absolutely clean
Yeah.
house. Those
Oh,
fish
yes.
don't
That,
see the
I
river
think
for
the
more than
thing that
24
gets me
hours.
on the hooch is the meat hunters that got like 4 rods out, and it's just them. And I think you're only supposed to have one.
Oh, really? That
Yeah,
goes
no,
on.
there's a hard and fast regulation
Yeah.
there, and you'll see guys set up with 6 or 8 rods out, just waiting for one to jiggle.
I popped that question
Um,
up right there. We
and
get one of these trout questions. Keep going.
I was about to say, if you get if you get away from the public water there, if you do have a kayak or some way to get down the river or know someone that lives in one of these neighborhoods that back up to the river, you're more likely to find some bigger trout in
Yeah.
those
I
waters.
got you. One of the cool things here with running the store is we've had people come in and they fish the delayed harvest up here on Amiclola and stuff like that. And of course, we're right at the foothills with all this trout. And they're like, when are you going to start, bringing in trout stuff and all that? And to be honest, I'm not that's some very specific stuff these guys want and stuff. So
Yeah.
I was kind of talking to you beforehand, but I see this question about nymphing, and okay, now's my time to learn here right there. So what is your personal opinion on tight line nymphing? Do you feel it's truly fly fishing or not, since you're using the weight of the fly line to propel the fly in the traditional sense? My God, that's Chinese.
The term you're looking for is Euro dork.
Yes.
Euro
So
dork. Okay.
I still consider it fly fishing. I'm by no means against it. It's
Explain-
works.
extremely
okay,
effective.
explain that.
It works.
What that is.
So with more, I guess, what most people think of fly fishing, you've got your fly line, typically floating if you're fishing for
Right.
Trout, down to your leader, which is tapered, and then you've got your flies.
Right.
So that would be typical. You're using a bob, they call it an indicator. It's a bobber. You use it, or you can use a dry fly as your indicator if you're fishing wet
Right.
flies below it.
That's me.
So that's kind of your standard setup with tightline nymphing or Euro nymphing. It is literally just thicker not really any fly line, but thick mono to thinner mono. It just tapers all the way down, and you've got, it tapers over a 25-foot section, and you're basically not using more than 20 feet of line out of your rod tip. So
Okay.
you're on pretty much completely tight line the whole way, so you can feel everything, and you can control your fly's depth in the water better. And so you're not having all these little microcurrents or the surface. So the surface tensions or surface current's always faster than the bottom current. So
Okay.
you're able to cut that distortion down, and you'll end up getting more bites at the end of the day.
Okay. Why would somebody think that that's not traditional? Though?
Because you're not casting. You're not making
doing the
long
river
casts.
runs, river runs through it. that
Yes,
kind of stuff.
but in reality,
That's a great movie too.
in North Georgia, you're not making long casts anyway. So whether whether I'm Euro nymphing or if I'm fishing with a dry dropper or just dry flies, I'm not casting more than 20 feet anyway most of the
Okay.
time on these smaller, pieces of water.
For somebody that wants to get into fly fishing, real quick, just a kind of a general setup that can get them started.
So 9-foot 5 weights, typical, rule of thumb for
Yeah.
beginning. It'll catch you bass, trout, kind of anything in between. Anything under 7 pounds, it's good for. I mean, anything under 10 pounds, it's fine for. You start throwing heavier flies or fishing for bigger fish, you might want to upsize a little bit. There's no reason to ever really downsize. A lot of people fish North Georgia with 3 weights. It's more fun. It's not necessary though. So that's your best all-arounder and get the job done.
Do you understand what he's saying, Paul?
Yeah, absolutely.
Good. I'm glad somebody on here.
Yeah,
knows.
you-
I'm
you-
listening.
yeah,
I'm
you-
gonna learn all
basically,
this stuff.
basically, when you're talking about line weight or in fly fishing, you're talking about casting the weight of the line instead of the weight of the lure.
Mhm.
And so the front portion is like a fly line has kind of different sections, right? You have your back, your running line, and then you have usually your head section, which is where all the weight is.
And that's towards the end.
That's towards the business end.
Okay.
And there are different tapers and whatnot, and I'll leave all that kind of.
Yeah.
Too technical. For
Yes,
this.
Right.
we'll stay out of those weeds.
Okay.
But all your weight, like the portion that you cast, is out towards the business end of the line.
Gotcha.
And so, depending on how many grains that is, kind of that portion that you're physically casting, you kind of have a different rod weight to load and cast that line
So you're
effectively.
still using the rod to load it and all that.
Yeah. So the line loads the rod throws the line. Ideally, you get a nice tight loop and it unrolls, and you get a pretty Brad Pitt cast, and your
Brad Pitt.
your trout comes up.
That's the other thing. A lot of the southern folk, Florida and all that, they come up and they want to do the Brad Pitt casting, and I was
Hey,
like,
it's sexy.
we don't do that here.
Yeah.
That's the first thing we go with.
Can you roll
Like,
cast?
Yeah. I was going to say we're not going to do anything like that.
Gotcha.
So- And I find that to be true too. Like people that I take fly fishing, the few that I do, like you think coming from bass fishing or spin fishing, right? It's the long cast is like the goal,
Thing. Yeah.
Yes.
right? And in fly fishing, and I had to get over this hurdle as well. Like a good 20-foot cast is better than 100 average 50-foot casts.
And with that, I would say it's all about the approach, the stalk. A lot of people definitely, they don't think about creeping up on these fish. And that's to me, that's my funnest, or the most fun I can have while fly fishing. I like to see how close I can get to them without spooking them, make that perfect cast, one cast, and you got them.
Okay.
Like, rather than just barging in,
Yeah.
Well, I mean,
Like
there's an art form to it as well.
I think
guess that's
a lot of times too, like if you're somewhere where you can see them, you can watch them behave.
Yep.
And if you really want to know about a fish, like getting just to watch them behave
Mhm.
is so informative.
It's like bed fishing, just all the time, most of the time. Or even if you can't see the fish, like I said, in some areas, you might not see a bass on the bed, but you'll see that brighter spot,
Right.
and you're like, oh, there's probably a bass there. So you're blind fishing. In that case, you might be fishing like a little eddy or, some kind of current seam in the
Right.
river. So you don't necessarily see the fish, but you can assume he's there. And same way you stalk that spot and then make your cast.
Yeah.
And that's
That's awesome. Pull up Tracy Coker's question right there. This is a good one. How far will trout swim down the feeder rivers towards the lakes, or will they even travel that far?
I'm trying to think of a scenario without it, and it really depends on the fishery. Like on Lake Burton, there's trout in the lake,
Yeah.
and they'll live in the lake most of the year, and then the brown
Then
trout
they'll run,
will go
yeah.
up in the fall. Rainbow's probably midwinter, sometime around winter. They'll make those runs up the Tallulah there, Coleman River area,
Right.
and do their spawn business, and then head back down to overwinter and spend the rest of the year there.
Yeah.
How far do they normally go? Or just depends.
Brown
It's
trout
a-
will move.
what we talking
Rainbows not as much. Brown trout will cover. They'll cover 10, 20 miles in a night from what I've
Yeah.
Really?
read from some fisheries people.
Brooks will move a lot.
Brooks
Brooks
they don't-
disperse really quickly.
They don't hang out too
Okay,
long.
there you go. So, pop me up. Okay, so here's another one. Facebook user. What are your go-to flies for North Georgia? Junk flies or natural flies? Squirmy wormies, whatever. Squirmy wormies.
So we were talking about this earlier.
Yeah.
For wild fish, if you're fishing with the smaller wild fish, a stimulator, dry fly is all you need. Bigger caddis. Yeah, biggest caddis.
I was asking him
caddis
what we
pattern.
needed to put in the store right there.
Yeah, that's.
You know what a stimulator is, Beasley?
Everybody in the state could throw it, and they'd still bite it. They're just optimistic. The biggest thing about the simulator is it floats really high, so you don't have to keep on putting floating on it or drying it out. It'll just last you longer. For the stalkers, junk flies,
Yes.
eggs, worms. mops.
Anything
That's-
flashy.
Yes, and then
Okay.
for the wild fish, if you want to go subservience, just anything, any natural. So like a pheasant tail, hare's ear, they're just a mayfly nymph.
You mentioned something
Imitations.
upstairs about, I asked you about matching the hatch.
Yeah.
Now tell everybody what you told me.
So in Georgia, we don't really have big hatches. We don't have the blanket hatches like they have, further up north or out west. North Carolina, we even have a few hatches. Georgia, it doesn't happen. We'll have periods in the day where more bugs are coming off the water, but it's never, a million of one bug. It's, a stonefly here, a mayfly here, and the trout never really get keyed in on them. So the trout in Georgia are more optimistic with whatever bugs floating downstream. They've learned to just take, what they can get.
Right.
They don't really get keyed on to one fly of one size, for an extended period of time.
What is the most popular fly thrown in Georgia?
Oh man, it'd be probably a tie between mop and a worm, squirmy worm.
Squirmy, yeah.
I'd probably guess squirmy worm, but mop probably should be
Okay.
Yeah.
if you're trying to be
And
more effective.
With that name,
Lots of crazy
flies
names.
have some crazy names. What's your favorite fly name?
Oh man,
It's going to be a galoop streamer.
The
you
two-
know it
the-
is.
Oh well, yeah. Yeah.
what?
Omitting the stream. So streamers, the famous fly tire that kind of created a lot of these streamers, gave them all promiscuous names.
Oh,
But the best one for a little nymph, there's the 2-bit hooker, which is a very effective
that's a
one
good
that'll
one.
get you deep.
Beasley, what do you think about that? You ever met a 2-bit hooker? Huh?
See, I don't even know if we're not doing
around.
streamers. That takes all the ones that I like off the table.
Yeah, I was about to say we'll take the dirty streamer
Yeah.
ones off, but yeah,
I go Zoo Cougar. Zoo Cougar is a good one.
Yeah, the sex dungeon.
This the sexy grandma.
Yeah,
Sexy grandma, sex dungeon.
yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Sex dungeon's a classic one.
So what are we saying
yeah.
about the guy that tied the streamers?
Oh, he's a character. He's what really got me, and his Kelly Gallup is his name. He's kind of the reason. So, get a little backstory on how I got into fly fishing. I was, big bass fisherman. I moved from Texas to Oklahoma, and the bass fishing in Oklahoma in the winter was just awful. And I'm Oklahoma City, not Tulsa area. Tulsa area, really good. Oklahoma City, not so much.
Would you like to try Steve's nuts?
I'm good on the nuts for now. I've had my fill
Okay, well,
today.
they're the best nuts you've ever had. I mean, you sure?
Pinkston's here. I figured.
I'm getting some.
Get some
But
Steve's nuts.
so I was in Oklahoma. My buddy's like, "Hey, you want to try fly fishing?" I was like, "Ah, that sounds pretty wimpy, but we'll give it a go." And we start watching these tying videos, tying our own flies. And I see Kelly Gallup's video on tying streamers, and I was like, "This guy's badass." Like he's not one of the wimpy fly fishermen.
Yeah.
He'll jab some bass.
Give him meat and make him eat.
He claims he watched Mixon back in the day with his head and super spook and all that, and that's how he designed a lot of his flies. And he's just, you think a lot of machismo and bass fishing. I could show you some streamer fishing that'll just blow your mind. I call it chess game at 100 miles an hour. You're reading the fish, tailing the streamer, faster, rip, on the hook set. You're just jabbing the fish in. So it can
Kinda
get
got excited
intense.
right
Oh,
there.
I love
That's
it.
what I'm saying. Yeah, he got-
It
he got
gets
animated
me
right there.
going. I have a couple of videos. I just started my YouTube channel, Georgia Wild Trout.
There you go. You
And
guys go,
I
subscribe to that.
I've got one of my more recent ones. We're throwing a lamprey pattern that's about 7-8 inches long, and you can see these rainbows, big 20, 24 inches, tailing it, chasing it. Taking swipes at it. The guy who's fishing it, good angler, didn't quite have the hook set down, so we missed quite a few. He landed a nice brown trout a little bit later, and it's intense. I mean,
That's
it'll
pretty
get you
awesome.
going.
What is your fly setup for chasing big browns on the hooch?
With streamers, 8-weight rod, get it done. I don't like sink tips. That's kind of most streamer fishermen will say throw a sink tip, which is the fly line sinks
Yeah.
at the end of it. I throw a floating line. I have more control manipulating the line.
Yeah.
So throwing that with those 7-8 inch streamer patterns will kind of your best bet.
So do you feel like it's not as important to get it down, or do you lengthen out the leader so that you can get the drop
I like to weight the fly.
instead
I
of the
don't
line?
like yes.
Okay.
That way, my biggest thing when fishing streamers is I like throwing big slack mends and changing your head direction on that streamer cues so many bites. If you just straight strip in all day long, you're going to get a lot of follows, not a lot of commits. You change that head direction and get it to go upstream or downstream, that's a moment of weakness to that fish, and he'll just
Which is
clobber it.
very similar to a bass guy throwing like a Seville or
Jer-
something.
jerkbait,
Or
yes.
jerkbait,
Jerkbait,
hitting
yes.
Hitting that thing. What are the Georgia trout's main diet? And I imagine that is different for each species a little bit, right?
Yes.
Well, so mostly it's all the same. Mostly it's going to be some kind of insect, some kind of aquatic insect, mayfly, stonefly, caddis.
Right.
Now, once brown trout get bigger, they switch. They become piscivorous.
Paciferous. That is the
Word of the day.
Word of the night.
And we don't even know how to spell it, but paciferous.
And they'll start eating, shiners, chubs, other smaller
That's all.
trout.
That's
That doesn't happen as much in Georgia. There's a few waters that'll happen on.
Probably the hooch down below where it gets big.
The hooch,
Yeah.
absolutely. Those big brown trout are eating stockers.
Those-
when I was telling most people,
Eating stalkers.
oh yeah, they'll eat a 10-inch, 12-inch stalker without a problem.
Really?
Oh, that's how they
That's
got.
amazing. I didn't
Some of
think-
those
Yeah,
trout,
they're-
man,
they're-
they're
I know they're
crazy.
big.
I mean, what do
They're
you
eating
think a
stalkers. I mean,
trout?
that's this.
Trout that yeah.
That's that.
Oh, that's
You think a
when I
like-
saw that
corn.
earlier, I thought
They eat corn.
when I saw that earlier, I was thinking, man, you're either striper here or you can catch some big browns on
Now
that.
this is okay. Now this being a glide bait, you can catch.
Oh, fish! Oh yeah, I throw glide baits all the time on the river.
Really?
Oh yeah.
Now let me ask you this. Now imagine if you're throwing that, we're hitting the bait casters and stuff.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Fly
yeah.
rod.
Yeah, no, no.
Oh,
Yeah,
I
no.
mean, that would be a hell
So
of a cast right there.
I use them as search baits a lot. Like if I'm fishing a part of the river I've never fished before, and I just want to put eyes on the trout, glide bait's the way to do it. Or Sabiles. Sabiles work really well out there too.
That's very interesting. But I guess a rainbow and a brook, mostly bugs and whatever floats down.
Oh yeah. So
Does a
the
rainbow
bugs just-
hunt though like a brown? Now brown's the hunter of the trout world, right?
Browns will turn into the hunter. Now, below the dam, when they've more of the juvenile brown trout, they're eating the same thing the rainbows are. They're eating, below the dam, it's mostly midges. And they're just kind of mosquito-looking tiny bugs.
Right.
That's mainly what they're eating.
I got you. That's
I think
very
they switch over pretty soon, though. I mean, you'd be shocked at what those little browns will try to
Well, that's
try
just,
to
I
eat.
guess
I
that's
mean,
in
they're
their nature. That's their.
Well, and it's also about availability. So just
Yeah.
tip for finding the big browns on the hooch, fish around the little creek tributaries. Because they're keying in on, regular shiner. There's not that many shiners and all that in the main body of water in the hooch. When that water goes up, they get in those creeks and they start picking off the brim, creek chubs,
Same as the
whatever's
bass.
in those little guys.
yeah,
Yeah.
so it's very similar to a bass.
Yeah.
right there.
Similar. Oh yeah, they're hunters. They're hunters.
I like that. That makes it a lot more interesting. Out of all the rivers to catch trophy trout, where would you go?
In Georgia,
Yeah.
I mean the hooch and the Toccoa are going to have the two. They're going to have the bigger ones. Small waters. And someone asked on the Facebook chat earlier today. Look for the private waters that grow the trophy trout, and then this time of year, following a rain, those fish will push upstream to kind of do their spawn business,
Like
and you can
the
find them there.
Sakui, or how you pronounce it?
Yes,
Sakui
so
or whatever.
Sakui, those are just lost pets, but there's some other
But
waters.
they do get downstream to that public.
Oh no, yeah,
the
they'll
fakest trout
without a doubt
fishery
get
on
there.
earth.
The
The fakest
The
trout
fakest.
fishery.
I see them
The
guys
problem
holding
with-
up there. I threw some power bait out there, and he's got like a 10-pound or whatever. They're
Well,
huge.
and there's a lot of the guys that manage it for fly fishing. They kind of do it responsibly. The problem with Sokwe is like there's so many houses and they all feed the fish that there's just an overabundance of food floating down at all times. Some of these other places in North Georgia, it's only that place trying to feed the fish, and they're not feeding them to get them fatter. They're feeding them to keep them on that body of water.
Right.
You can't hold the density of fish that they hold without feeding them, or they'll scatter throughout the river, and you won't have many fish there.
That makes a lot of sense. Will corn kill trout?
No, absolutely not.
It's not good for them, though.
Yeah, you don't want to overfeed it. You don't want them
Yeah.
obese, but
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, it's not going to kill them.
So just like anything else, they'll eat it till they.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
I saw a study, Utah or somewhere like that, where they did the corn diet, and it was just kind of the fish didn't react well to eating corn, but it doesn't kill them.
Kind of
Right.
like California with their lead.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. A tiger trout is a bucket list fish. Any suggestions where I can catch one?
If you believe in the lottery and think you can win, you can get up to North Carolina and find some. There might be a stream or two in North Georgia that could have one. I've never caught one anywhere in the southeast.
What is a tiger trout?
A tiger trout is a hybrid between a brook and a brown.
Okay.
They're really cool looking colors, awesome looking fish. Easiest places to do it, there's a couple, St. Mary's Glacier, just west of Denver. Easy trip, make it in a weekend, easy to catch. Utah is kind of the place to go.
Okay,
There's
so
some
out west is-
there's some
the
alpine
availability
lakes.
out west
They,
is better.
they exclusively stock tiger trout in these alpine lakes in those
Okay.
areas.
All right, that's very interesting. Where's the best place, best public access? It always disappears from me that for good trout fishing. Best public access for good trout fishing.
There's a lot, and it depends on what you're looking for. Like
Yeah.
stockers, I mean, the big names, Coopers,
Yeah.
Rock Creek, they're
Dick's Creek.
But
Yeah.
you got to fight the people with the corn in those.
Yeah.
yes and no.
Right where
Do,
they stop.
do a little walking. Just get a little bit
Right.
of exercise in. The further, if you're fishing within 100 feet of a parking spot, those spots are going to get beat up. If they didn't just stock, there's probably not going to be many fish there. You'd be amazed how many more fish you'll catch after walking a quarter mile than you will parking, dropping a line right there.
That's very good.
And keep on moving. Cover a lot of water. Think of it just like bass fishing. If you're not catching anything, don't expect them just to show up there. Move.
I like this question. How long would it take you to make Danny a real fly fisherman? And let me say this. I actually have caught trout with a fly rod. Now, I'm not going to say I was very good at it, but I had a cousin that was getting into it, and he rigged me up a fly rod and put a little bitty black end on it. And we put in up here at Amaclola on 53. But we did do that. We walked. We didn't fish right there.
Yep.
We walked probably about a mile or half a mile back in, and then got out in the middle. And I remember there was like a little eddy behind a rock, and just kind of dropping it down there in front of that. And I caught a couple. They were little bitty ones. I mean, they wasn't nothing. But I'm kind of talented. I might figure it out. How long? I tell you what, if I was totally green to be a respectable fly, how long would it take?
On one trip, I could certainly get you interested in it. Or if bass fishing hits a lull, summertime and whatnot, I could convince I could get you to a spot where you might want to go trout fishing instead.
Okay.
Just for these wild trout. Now I could show you some stuff with some big trout that'll really get the streamer fishing. It'll get you hooked. It's just.
I think I would like to do that.
The intensity level on it is just ridiculous.
This is a really good question. What is the biggest shoal bass you have caught while fishing for trout?
Oh, maybe 8 inches long on the Chattooga.
Oh, really? So you haven't got into any of the big places where the big shoal bass are at?
If there's shoal bass in a spot, there might be some big trout, but there's not going to be numbers of trout.
So if you're taking a client out, you're gonna want to put them in other spots.
Yeah, I don't fish many of the. A lot of those are bigger waters too.
Right.
That you're going to find shoal bass in. So I like the smaller stuff for
So
trout.
if you catch like an 8-inch shoal bass on like a creek out there, that's generally a wild. I mean, like just kind of isolated incident, or are they in a lot of the creeks and stuff?
So we fish a tributary of Carter's Lake, so Coosa Chain, and we find them. They come up in the spring and they'll do their spawn business up in the creeks.
Really?
So yeah, we'll run across some 6-8 inchers doing that.
But not the monsters. Or anything.
Yeah, no, we don't see any big ones. If you want to go big ones, you got to get into too warm of water.
Okay.
Gotta go down south.
What are your thoughts on the White River?
Oh, it's awesome. That's where I learned to streamer fish actually.
Where's the White River?
Northeast Arkansas, Cotter, Arkansas would be.
Okay,
the,
so out of
and
state here.
It's kind of the mecca for throwing big streamers now.
Okay.
So if you're looking to catch a 20-pound brown trout, you can certainly do it out there.
So kind of listening to you talk in bass fishing, we kind of categorize guys. They're power fishermen or they're finesse guys. So if you're a trout guy throwing streamers and stuff, well, there's junk fishermen, yeah.
Well, yeah.
But
Junk
that's-
kinda
a
gets
streamer
into-
guy is what you would consider in the trout world a power guy.
That would certainly be a power guy.
And
And
then
then
the guys throwing these little
the
midges.
dry fly would be more your finesse. I'd say fly fishing in general certainly lends itself more to the finesse side. But if you like the power stuff and the attractiveness of, you'll probably go out and get skunked 9 times out of 10, but that one successful day you will never forget with
awesome.
the power fishing stuff.
What are you, Paul?
Fly fishing?
How would you consider yourself?
Oh man, I'd like to be a power guy. I'm a bobber guy.
The power stuff's tough.
Dry dopper guy.
It takes a lot more time
Yeah.
to learn a ton of coordination because we don't have the reels to move that bait fast. You've got to do it with your hand and the rod tip. And
What about guys like Beasley, who he was talking upstairs, how much fun it is to get on a lake and fly fish for
Oh,
like
that's
brim
so
and
much
stuff
fun.
like that.
Oh, those bluegill
It's
bass.
a hoot, dude.
that
You ever do
Top-
anything?
just
you
throw
can
top
you can
water.
get a ton of bites.
Yeah.
it's
A
And
little
those big ones.
yellow popper is the best way to fish small water. Period.
in on the lakes.
I have never thrown an egg.
That's the way to learn how to cast. Do it on the lakes.
Get on a lake, learn how to do the cast and
Yeah,
stuff.
Yeah,
brim
it's
fishing
super
is
easy.
an excellent way to
It's
learn.
and
how
it's
to
so
cast.
much fun. You pop it and one will come up and smash it off the top.
Would night fishing with mouse flies work on big browns in Georgia like they do in other places?
You know, I would. It probably could work on the certain waters, but the hooch is just dangerous to float. There's so many just big chunk rocks.
That's
sticking
illegal
up.
at night.
You've got.
Is it illegal in Georgia at
I didn't
night?
know if it was.
Yeah, you're supposed to be off the tailwater at night.
Okay.
I mean, maybe in the north part of the river.
It'd be. The quality of fish isn't there. The quality of fish are below the dam. Yeah, I wouldn't trust it. And the White River in Arkansas, where they do it a lot,
They generate a lot at
wide
night,
open. It's
too.
it's wide open water. It's
Yeah.
it's twice as big of a river.
Is that a tailwater?
Yes.
Yeah, it is?
Oh yeah. Big
What
time.
lake?
Oh yeah. Bull shoals, beaver, all that chain.
Okay, I was just curious.
Bobby Underwood, yeah. So we actually had this conversation a little bit before the show. Tad and I were sitting in my office and we were talking about Henry Cowan, striper fishing with a fly rod.
When are we going to get Henry on the show?
Henry said that he would be willing to come back home, but he's dealing with a little bit of an illness. He actually has cancer, so he's going through some treatment, but good prognosis and all that. But between that and COVID, you know, he's kind of taking it.
You
he
got to
still
stay
makes
at
his
home.
trip. Yeah, he doesn't go out as much, but I did actually talk to Henry about 2 weeks ago. He's in good spirits and all that, but we did talk about him coming back.
That
on the
would be
show.
awesome.
And you were talking about reading his book already and everything, and you
Oh,
were
yeah.
saying how tough it is, though, to stay on those stripers like that.
I have a ton of respect for him. Just the amount of confidence it takes to chase those striper with a fly. Like, one, you have to be an excellent caster. You can't go out on his boat for the first time not knowing how to throw a fly rod and have success. It's not going to happen. So, you know, doing what he does is
Yeah.
way tougher than
Do you
what
know
I do.
he actually has put the same client on a couple of line class record spotted bass on Lanier?
Oh, I don't. If you're striper fishing, those fish are
Yeah,
mixed in.
They actually will go hunting on them spots with flies though. Certain times, like,
Mm.
and I don't know if it's at night under green lights and stuff, but they'll actually go hunt them
Yeah.
to try to set that world. Or
A lot of it,
Like
and
a line tippet record,
on
whatever
Lanier,
you call
you
it.
see guys do it a lot. You'll see the flat skiffs start to show up in the fall
Yeah,
and in the winter,
Floridians pop
and
up.
and they'll chase the birds, and I mean it's intense.
So
I mean,
the other so I'm a
it
big,
is run and gun. It's like chasing schooling fish with your spinning gear, right? Except you got to get way closer and you got to be way quicker.
So I'm a big striper angler on Lanier as well, and just by striper fishing, I've learned so much more about the spotted bass on Lanier than I ever would have just going around running points, brush piles, and all that stuff. I see so many times, you know, the bass guys come up.
Listen to this here, Bruce. This is your area.
They'll hit on a point and then they'll just leave. And I was like, man, if you'd have waited, 5 minutes longer and fished off the side of that point, you would have some. Because I'll spotted bass fish while I'm getting bored striper fishing, and I'll catch them on topwater all day, big ones off the side of points. The roaming fish, not the ones sitting on the points, doing that business.
Herring eaters. That's what
Yes,
they are.
yeah. And there's a few spots on the lake where in the midsummer, I know they come up like the mouth of young deer. There's a group of fish that passes the point by Tidwell every morning between 10:30 and 11:30.
Set your watch.
Every morning in the late summer, and so like he could be getting them on fish like that. And
Yeah.
I know there's other pots, up in Flat Creek and Mud Creek. There's a few of those.
The merry-go-round in flat.
And Bobby, while you're out there, you said you read his book. It's great. Actually, he's going to get us a couple of copies to put in the store for us to sell. I can't remember though off the top of my
It's
head
not
right
like
now
it's
what
not
the name of
other
that
people
book
don't know
is.
it.
So Bobby, if you could put that name of his book out there. I know it's something like Catching Landlocked Stripers on
Sodium,
Fly or
no, not
something like-
sodium-free striper.
Yeah,
he's got something.
But
like that.
and Henry's like a world-class fly tyer and everything. I mean, that dude, and he's a Yankee.
Oh, is it-
Yeah, he is.
Henry, is that you,
No,
Facebook
listen.
user?
Who's that?
It looks like it, yeah.
Oh,
Oh,
it
is
might
that
be.
Henry? Oh, I hope it is.
He's
I
a-
hope it is. So, no spot burning. So if that is Henry, man, we love you, and I'm glad you're on. And if it's not, we love you anyway. If you're the other Henry, so we're all Henrys.
A different Henry.
A different Henry. So we're all for the Henrys. But yeah, but Henry.
I think that's him.
Fly fishing for freshwater stripers. Man, hey, listen, I got to get some of them things up here, and I want an autograph copy for myself. And he is watching. That is awesome that you're watching. And actually, you said you wanted to get with him at some point.
Oh yeah,
So we can
I'd love
set
to.
this
Yeah,
up
I was
right
about to say,
here.
I love that.
So
Pick
Henry-
his brain.
Let's make a date.
Let's make a date. So Henry, Tad and I were talking about you before the show, and all. He was like, he'd love to get with you and pick your brain. So that's awesome. So and my friend, I hope your health is getting there. Praying for you. You know, we talked about that. So supporting Tad, there you go. So that's awesome, man. You got like a world famous guy on here.
Yeah, no.
Well, I mean, we have a couple of them show up every once in a while, but
Yeah.
most of the time it's just us yahoos out there like that.
Beasley.
And Beasley.
Beasley's about as famous as we get.
Beasley is. So, guys, we're going to be doing the drawing for the raffle here in about another 5-10 minutes, something like that. So to give away those, and again, we thank everybody for their support and all that. So, how about this question? Jeremiah.
Oh, the game changer.
Oh,
How do you feel about the game changer?
Well, what is the?
Is it a game changer?
It's the
What the hell is it?
It's the magic swimmer of the fly world. It's
Oh,
literally
okay.
that's what it does. It's just a
Oh, that's cool.
snaky looking minnow.
So is it a game changer?
It's
It
cool.
was when it first came out. I mean, it certainly works.
So we mimicking a Seville.
It's
Yeah.
same thing.
So it's like a
Streamer?
game changer. Yeah, it's a streamer. It's tied on like a chain, pretty
Right.
much.
Not a
They're
chain.
kind
It's,
of a-
well, it's just a bunch of
like links?
They're called articulated shanks, and they're basically
there you go.
It's basically like a hook shank with no hook on it, essentially. So you would tie the tail of the fly with that, and then you've got the one hook, at the front
I
kind of
got
core of the bait.
I got you. When does the topwater striper bite on Lanier, or when is it, and when does it start up again? When does it stop, and then
Yeah.
when does it start up again? I'm sorry for reading it.
That's
If we have a hot summer, it slows down.
They put it never ends.
yeah,
A lot of them, it never ends.
it never got consistent this spring.
Yeah.
Well, I do remember.
But it was never really bad either.
No.
It's
If we have a nasty summer, it kind of goes away.
if you're
but-
going to chase them on the fly, keep the fly at the ready, and then
Yeah.
you'll run across them at some point during the day.
Right.
But if
Yeah.
you just kind of got to be waiting for it.
I know that when Henry did his podcast with us, he was telling us about, and I guess, good grief, we've been doing this a while. I don't know if it was last year during the winter.
it had to be.
It was kind of off. That the for some reason the stripers were staying down, and if you're gonna fly fish for them, you need them up.
I
Well,
think that was
in the falls, the
the year
turnovers.
before.
Yeah,
It might have been. It's been a
well,
while.
it's
We've been doing this
it's
for
been
a
the
while
last
now.
couple years. The fall turnovers
If
have been really
If
funky.
you're interested and you're on YouTube, you can go back and scroll through all of our
Yeah,
past
all the way
podcasts,
back.
and Henry's there, and you can watch that again. It's very
Those are good to watch. You got some good stuff.
Some
on
of the
those.
old stuff. I know I need to get back to doing one
Yeah,
on the podcast. I really
That's
do.
awesome. Those are so cool.
A lot of people have been wanting us to do that. It's really fun because I'd never met Henry before I said that, and a lot of other guys. Jimbo, O'Neal Williams. Just
Oh, wow, yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah, you
Yeah.
know I had a podcast with O'Neal on there.
Oh.
Paul, go back and watch it.
I guess I
Man.
should.
He's like 70s. He's 70-something years old. He's built like a brick shit house, man. I mean, he's
Bill
a
Dance.
stout.
First time I met Bill Dance, I was like, "Good God, were you linebacker at Tennessee?" Like, I mean, he
Yeah,
is
I mean-
just
He's a big dude.
Big human
And
being.
O'Neal ain't much bigger than me, but I mean, he comes like woof, like the dude's got to still be working out. So, Alex Green, glad to see you here. F&G has custom. Oh, he's okay. That's a thing right there. So, I tell you what, let's do this.
Alex, did you slay the dragon today?
Oh, did he? Henry Cowan's something else is probably. You see what happens though when I'm trying to read and they switch over? I always have to pause myself. I always get lost. I can't follow. No, you're doing great. It's me. It's not you. Henry Cowan's something else is probably one of the better flies for both bass and striper on the near. Well, he's on
It
here.
should
so
be.
Yeah, it should be. He can do that. So, but the Jimbo ones are epic. Yeah, I mean, listen, we
That
need
was
to get.
cool.
I'm just going to start
That
doing
was
that
super
again.
cool. I went and rewatched a bunch of those.
You learn a lot about the people
You do.
too. That's the
You
one
really
thing about
do.
doing the podcast. I try to get in a little more of the
and
personal.
I always like the thought processes behind.
Oh, yeah, great.
Because like with him on the water, like I've got the gut feeling that he burns a lot of gas to find these fish, but he might see something like, hey, if they're sitting off the side of this point, he might know a bunch of other side points.
Do you know
to
that
kinda
he
hang
used to
around.
like fly fish like downtown New York City?
Oh, it's great in New York.
Yeah, so like-
all the way down to Montauk on Long Island is excellent striper
See, that's
fishing.
what I'm saying. Yeah, but I mean, it was just like he would do that. And it was kind of interesting to me. I'm like, are you serious? Because I always thought it was just like a trash
Well,
water around it. But he
and
was like,
the-
no,
and-
that's what he did.
And the fish, I mean, choosing flies not terribly different. It's still they're biting menhaden. I think they call them something else up there, but
Right.
bunker maybe.
Bunker.
You look at me, bunker, maybe
Bunker,
like I do.
yeah, I was like-
I ain't had a clue
But,
what we've been talking
I mean,
about.
Alewife.
They're all the same size.
That's awesome.
Bait fish.
The lamprey pattern you tie looks awesome. Do you sell them, or can you share how you tie them? Is it tied
So-
using a dragon tail?
Yes, dragon tail. So little tip on tying them.
Wait a second. So you
course.
tie flies?
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
You sell them?
If you streamer fish, you have to. The flies are different. One fly isn't going to work everywhere. It's not like bass fishing. You kind of have to tie to your situation, circumstance. You know, kind of what you're fishing.
Gotcha. Okay, so Henry wants me to ask you this. Please ask Tad to talk about how fly rods and reels are now affordable and the different brands.
Oh yeah, so that's been great. When I grew up, fly
I should
fishing
just
was.
get Henry to do the show. Henry should have been doing this show.
So fly fishing was intimidating when I was a kid. Like I never cared about it. I saw the price of the fly rods and I was like, it's never going to be for me.
Dunzo.
Now, you've got some companies out there making stuff, same ballpark as a bass, setup, whether it be bait cast or spinning rod.
Right.
So it's not, the entry to get into it is relatively easy these days.
Okay, so let me ask you this. Given the fact that a lot of guys strip the line off, and this is just me from watching,
Yep.
and you got the line stripped off in the water and you're just using a pole to go back, is the reel really that important?
The reel is a line holder for trout fishing. Now, when you're doing the stuff like Henry's doing with your 7-8 weight fishing for striper, you need a drag. Most of the time.
And that's where you get the more expensive.
Yeah, that's your reel's going to double in price. It's going to go from $100 to $200.
Well, hell, I opened up a catalog upstairs. I forget. Abu Garcia or Pure Fishing owns one of these, and I was like, I've got to get some stuff for the store. And the first page I open up, the first reel I see is like $800, and I'm like, my gosh.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a big chunk of money though, and that might
Yes.
deter
Yep.
a lot of guys like me who I think I might like to go.
And for you starting off selling
Yeah.
them, I would start with those entry level, like just a name drop, like Reddington, Echo. Those are a couple that
Yeah.
are very affordable and they're very quality stuff. I throw Reddington stuff.
Okay.
Like I said,
So Reddington covers the whole.
I've got
kind
it
of the
for
whole
an
gamut.
Orvis
Echo-
endorsed
Echo's
company.
coming on really strong.
I've thrown all the super expensive Orvis rods, and they're great, but bang for your buck. I mean, I still like to throw my Reddington more than those. So
I got you. All right, so we're about halfway through. Real quick, we're gonna go ahead and do this drawing. We're gonna let Paul. He's actually gonna do that. No, so this again. We've been selling raffle tickets to benefit the Herd family. The same thing with the guide trips and stuff that we were doing. And a lot of you guys came up here and bought tickets, and we appreciate that. And it's just a good thing. So the first one we're going to do is for the fishing package. Again, this is this Bait Sanity Explorer Guide, the Revo Rocket 10-to-1-to-1, and the Veritas 7-foot medium rod back here. It's a pretty cool little package right there. That is one hell of a reel, is all I got to say. I mean, that is a Mac Daddy. Let me make sure I get the right one. All right, so here we go. So the fishing one, let me give this box a shake so nobody thinks it's rigged. That thing right there will
That is
That is mean looking.
That's pretty
It
nice.
is
I like that
mean,
red.
it is
I don't
light.
feel
Don't drop it.
I'm not going
If
to
you
drop
break
it.
it, if you break it, you buy it.
man. Or your daddy's going to buy it. So how about this?
Yes.
Close your eyes,
All right.
reach in here and grab a ticket.
We ain't got nothing trapped up.
No, well, we might.
we might now.
So let me shake it again.
All
You
right, give her a
ready?
shake.
Give her a shake. I'm going to make sure we do this right. Here we go. One more time. Got it down on the
All
side. All right, reach in there and pull out a winner.
All right, here we go. I didn't like that first one. Here we go.
All right, so who is the winner?
Scott Williams.
Scott Williams. All right, Scott Williams. So you are the winner of the fishing package. And let's see, we got his number. I'm going to hold that out right there. I'll get in touch with you for that. And now let's do the gun.
All right.
All right, same thing. Let's make sure they're all down here on the side.
Shake, shake, shake. Shake something for the camera, Danny.
You want me to? Look at that.
Shake something for the camera, Danny.
My God, you good?
Hey, listen, CT, you got to own it, maybe. You got to own that stuff.
It's all about confidence, Eric.
It
It's
is
all about confidence.
All right, reach in there and grab you one.
All right. I don't like that one either. All right, that's a good one.
That's a good one. Who won it?
Well, ain't no name on this.
They put the wrong thing. Don't worry
That's
about
a
that.
bad one.
That's a bad one.
I thought I had a good one.
That's where we got the name stuck on the thing. It was the other part of the ticket.
All right.
They just didn't want it. That got a name?
It does. Bill Holcomb.
Bill Holcomb. All right, Bill Holcomb. I will get in touch with you. And guys, again, hey, listen, we're going to start doing something like this every November or whenever the need arises. So you guys are awesome, and I appreciate you doing that. And these two guys, I will announce them tomorrow on the thing. On the
On the thing?
On the thing.
On the social medias.
On the social medias, the thing. because if I don't do it by like 9 p.m., Paul's calling me like, hell, we got to get a post out, Danny. But Scott Williams, Fish and Package, Bill
Accurate.
Holcomb, the Springfield Saint AR, and I will kind of get you in touch with the people who have that gun, and we're definitely going to do that. But I appreciate every person who bought one of these tickets and your generosity in doing so. So thank you all like that. So anyway, that's pretty awesome. So let's get back into the fishing talk.
I wanted to answer one of the old questions that was
Absolutely. Go ahead.
Go for it.
So someone asked about that lamprey pattern, and yes, it is a dragon tail, which kind of like a wool worm almost. But big tip for if you're tying with one of those. So that one didn't come in colors I wanted, so I bought a paint pen, painted it brown, just same color as the lamprey. After you finish it, singe it. If you use the paint pen, do it over the sink because the markers are flammable. Learned that the hard way on the first one. Lost a few hairs on my hand, but singe the tips on that dragon tail, and it's a lot more durable. It won't fall apart after a few fish come up and swipe it. So,
Can we get somebody to do a winter jerkbait show? Yeah, we can do that. Sting,
That bite
We'll find
is
somebody.
so good.
yeah, Sting. Hey, listen, and Pinkston, thank you for putting that up, guys. You still can donate if you haven't been around for these raffles and all the fundraising we're doing. You can actually still donate some money, and I'll make sure that it gets to the family. If you go to PayPal and go to Danny@fishnorthga.com. So Danny at Fish North Georgia. That's GA, not spelled out. .com. You can send some money. I'll make sure it goes to the herd family. You can actually just put in the notes, hey, I'm so-and-so, I want this. I don't care if it's $5, $10, whatever. I'll make sure they get every dime that we can get to them and help them out like that before this Christmas. So thank you, Steve Pinkston, for putting that out there. Yeah, we'll do a winter jerkbait show. We can do that. Maybe
working right now.
talk with Dana next week when he comes on.
Yeah.
I'm sure he knows about it.
Wait for your line to go.
That is the most frustrating thing in the world, though.
Oh,
Winter
it's-
jerkbait.
I love it.
See,
is so
you guys
fun.
are all cut from a different cloth. It's just not.
That-
I don't
that-
have that.
We
That's
like
just
to
like
do
a
things that work. And
I know, that
you
might
like
be
to
it.
not catch fish.
That's it. You're
Oh
exact-
my God.
No, he's not lying. He's not lying. No, seriously, I don't. There's some things I feel great at, and some things I don't have the patience.
I like
in
a
the
good
wintertime.
jerkbait bite. It's fun.
It's so much fun. I love when you snap and it's heavy and you're,
Yeah.
How do you think the COVID spike in fishing numbers have affected fish in the state?
So I know in North Georgia with the trout fishery, up there, there's tons more anglers. It
Yeah, you
really
got-
exposed some less traveled to spots, and it's kind of a bummer.
Yeah.
I mean, it can hold it, but there's, I can't go to a lot of holes now, or if I want to go to one hole in particular, I might get there and there might be someone in this one, my B has someone in that one. So certainly a lot more anglers out there, which I'm not going to complain about.
Yeah.
I like people. I'd rather see people outdoors than.
Right, I got that. But let me ask you this, and this is going to bring up some sore subjects here. Bass fishing guys get really pissed off with their own brush piles. Is the same drama going on in the trout world? Do you have that guy that says, this is my hole, and tries to just basically bully his way? Do you ever come across that?
I find the people that do it in trout fishing are kind of just, they don't understand the personal. They're usually newer anglers that don't understand the personal space thing. We don't have the guys that are like, oh, this is my brush pile, I put this here. That's,
God, thank God.
yeah.
I think.
That will be another airing of
I
grievances
think I
comment.
think in the trout game, it's usually more just like name checking places that are kind of a little less traveled. Like,
Right.
There are some things you want to try and keep off the map.
Well, that, and if there's someone in your favorite hole, just you can go 100
Yeah.
feet upstream, 200 feet upstream.
Hey, Beasley, do you actually have any questions for this man? I'm just curious.
Dude's asleep.
He looks like this is what you look like, Ryan, when we're talking about drop shotting. Ryan hates it. He's like,
There you go.
He's like, oh, he hates
I
it.
can't do it either. When I see someone drop shot on linear, I just go, oh, why do they even bass fish?
You're talking to who?
I'm actually talking to Josh because he said you sound very quiet all of a sudden.
I like catching fish, so I'll drop a drop shot.
I've got to be just really
it's-
bored on the water.
It ain't,
It's gotta be a
it ain't my
slow
favorite.
down.
It ain't my favorite way to do it.
Oh,
but
man.
But if you got to do, you do what you got to do. Hit that one up. We'll do that. This one first. I can't even. Is it E week 2? 2K? I've never even tried to figure out how to say it.
This guy's on every week.
He is
What's
on
your
every
real
week.
name? Like,
Yeah, I'd like to.
we can
Yeah,
just call you
first
by
off,
name.
what's your real name? And are you in favor
says
of
his
greater
real
stocking
name.
of trout in North Georgia lakes like Carter, Burton, Chattooga, etc.?
It'd be cool.
See, I wish stocking would kind of stop. Like,
Oh, so you're okay. So you're the opposite.
I want stocking to stop, and I want better management practices to start. Like, well, I look at North Carolina. North Carolina manages their trout fisheries excellently. I wish there was places that they stocked heavily for the people looking for a meal or something to get
Right.
out there. Then I wish there was more places that were catch and release only. The fish were more protected, and then you have those delayed harvests, which are the hybrid of the two.
Right.
See, that works amazing in North Carolina.
Right, how it's split up in Georgia, there's a little bit of delayed
I always
harvest,
go Western
very
Carolina,
few
all that
catch and
stuff.
release only, and
That's where I
then
catch
a
all my-
lot
that's
of
where I do
stocked
jerk
places.
bait.
So I'm fine with that the stocked river shrinking in size, and those other two kind of compensating.
Are you telling him to hush?
Yeah, well,
My goodness.
Well,
He's trying to talk over the guest of honor.
I understand, but don't let it deter you, young buffalo. You keep going at it. I mean, you know. Please have Tad discuss river etiquette and how close you can wade.
That
And
kind
listen, Ryan,
I'm going to wreck it.
he's going to wreck it.
that kind of depends on the river. Like if you're fishing a smaller creek, like up in North Georgia, maybe 2 or 3 holes of
Right.
space, might be appropriate. Whereas on the hooch, like you might get a little bit closer to someone
Next hole
just
up.
because there's only
We done run him off.
so much water.
No, I'm good. You want something to drink, man? You want water or something like that? You
I'm
sure?
still good, yeah.
Are you? Well, did you hydrate real well before you came?
Oh yeah, I had a Mountain Dew too, so
Oh, yeah, you go. All right, good.
The peak of hydration.
The peak of hydration. So,
yeah, I've always been so like when I first started fly fishing, I did a lot out in Arkansas in the Little Red and the White.
Right.
And man, how I learned, I'd go stand by the oldest guy in the river and just let him whoop my butt for about 2 hours. He'd be 40 fish to my 1. He'd come over, show me like, oh, hey, this is what we do here. This is what I'm using.
Right.
So like, as long as you're not casting over someone's line or fishing the exact same hole or run they're fishing, just be courteous or just ask. If they, have a,
Yeah.
if they're worried about being too close, ask the guy like, hey, can I fish here? Are you, how far up are you fishing?
Yeah.
right.
Asking
Are
is
you
better
going?
than assuming.
Yeah. Are you going up or down?
Yeah, exactly.
You know.
And
Just being polite.
yeah.
Well, that's lacking in
It's
this
not
world.
like, yeah, well, because I've been on the lake a couple times and I'll fish. Guys fishing a point and I'm fishing kind of 2 over, but they're semi close proximity. And he's come over and be like, "What are you doing?" I was like, "Man, like I'm on, I'll move, like, but
Yeah.
I'm fishing totally different fish than you."
Right.
So
This goes to Neil's kind of comment there. Unfortunately, this is Georgia, and they don't know squat about taking care of their fisheries. Okay, so this can go across the board from stripers to bass to trout and everything. What's your opinion on how Georgia runs their fisheries management?
it's too geared towards having to stock fish. It's less self-sustainable than a lot of other places I found. With that said, the striper, you kind of have to.
Yeah, right, absolutely.
Keep those stocks so that, that's a necessary evil. With trout on it, like I said, I don't get why Georgia still does it the way they do. I know it's kind of a cultural thing, and there's probably a larger population that does that put and take fishery.
Right. So
but-
basically what you're saying, the culture is them guys show up, they're waiting at that hole, that thing drops them off,
I have
and
a
they're
question.
chunking corn right in the middle.
I've heard, and this is just kind of hearsay, that a lot of the water that they stock, especially kind of in the warm months, is kind of marginal water anyway, and those fish wouldn't make it.
And that's the theory behind delayed harvest. So like Smith Creek, for example, up in Helen, one of the more popular ones, it's, hot right now because they just stocked. It can hold fish in the wintertime. In the summertime after that, because it's surface release from the little lake there on the state park. And that surface temperature in the summer is too hot for them.
not right.
It'll kill them anyway, so you might as well fish them out.
Right.
Amiclola, same way there, but was that the Devil's Bridge?
Devil's Elbow.
There you go.
Devil's Elbow. Right, now you're talking my neck of the woods right
Man,
there.
I've been jumping off that dang cliff thing right there.
Have you really?
It's scary, man.
You ain't jumping off.
The biggest thing is, well, the other thing with Georgia is there's a lot more private water than North Carolina. So it has that against them, even though Georgia technically has more trout stream than North Carolina does in terms of mileage, or I guess.
Right.
But, North Carolina's got a great template to look for. Georgia, it wouldn't be hard for them to manage more like North Carolina.
So what you're saying though is if you were in charge, you would try to do away with the stocking the way they do now. You would change it.
Yes, yeah, it's kind of food stamps.
I get what you're saying. Absolutely. Dane Hunter, what are your thoughts on people catching bass? I knew Dane was going to off the bed and weighing them in versus the way Texas is handling bedding fish during the spring. And I guess how is Texas handling?
It's kind of like the MLF format.
I never had the problem with taking the bass off the bed and taking them in a tournament. Well, bass are so hardy. You drop them back in the, as long as they survive the weigh-in, you drop back in the water. They'll spawn 100 feet down the bank. They don't care that much.
Ryan's giving his thumbs up down there, so he definitely agrees with you. And actually, we did a podcast with Shan O'Gorman. He's a fishery biologist from, of course, he did it at Georgia, and he actually said that people have this mindset if you pull too many bass off the bed, you're going to kill the population and all that. And he said the reality, if you knew how many eggs that got thrown out every year, that it's not what everybody has in their mind has been. Now, you can take this.
They will go find another one at a boat round.
Yeah.
They'll go down the bank and go find another buck making a bed.
I'm not well read on the Texas situation. Are they doing that on all lakes, or is it just a
I don't know.
I know, like, Fork, they do it. Yeah, Fork, they had to do it.
They don't have many tournaments on Fork anyway, comparatively.
Right.
Fork gets so much pressure.
Fork, the big hatchery,
Fork
is
they
right
do
there
it
on
because
Fork.
of that.
Right.
It's a study. They use Fork as a study.
That's their test lake.
Yeah.
There's another crazy good one. I think it's called Lake Raven, just north of Conroe, Houston area. That same way.
Gotcha. So apparently my mic is really hot all of a sudden, just way louder than the rest of the guys. So it might not be the mic. It's probably me. I'm loud by nature, but I will kind of tone it down. Tell me if this is a little bit better.
Give him the quiet storm.
You may give him that sexy
the quiet
voice.
storm.
This is what I do when I look at Ryan. Ryan, I need this done. No, I don't do it like that. You turn me down a little bit. Maybe that's better. So,
I turned you up a while ago because Josh said he couldn't hear you, and then he said it sounded good.
Now, from Ron. There's an interesting question about the slot, such as it is. I've always been a believer. I feel like I'm kind of a believer in the slot. Would that, for our bass fisheries, would that help us to institute that?
And he's talking in particular smallmouth too.
I can only say from what I've seen in Texas. So in East Texas, there's a lot of mid-sized lakes, in that 10,000 acre range that use the slot, and there are some absolute studs in them. Like you're talking 20, 25 pound bags any given day.
Now, is that because of the slot, you think, or is it because of just the kind of the productivity of those waters?
It's both. So those waters are more productive in general, but also you see a lot more in that 3 to 6 pound range, like a lot of fish in that 3 to 6 pound range that you don't see on the lakes without the slot. So
I got you. Kurt Weehunt, and he says, go up let me read Kurt, go up just a couple if you don't mind. He's right there at the top. Basically what he's saying is kind of what you're saying with food stamps kind of thing, comment. Just my opinion, but Georgia is managed for newbie fishing and the meat eaters. Florida's bass limit is 5, no minimum length, but only 1 over 16 inches can be kept. Therefore, it has a good balance.
Yes, so similar thing would apply to trout. Like there's some fisheries here, like Nuntula Creek is one, the minimum size is 17 inches, so it's supposed to be like one trophy fish. I can count on one hand how many fish are over 17 inches that don't push up there in the in the winter. So if we manage the same way, those fish like Nuntula was one of the better fisheries in the
There
state.
was another comment up, a couple up, and we'll get back to these questions right here. Actually, let's see.
Smallmouth
right
question.
There,
Let's
right
have
there.
that.
If Georgia didn't, that was kind of what we did. We hit that.
Yeah.
Yeah. If Georgia didn't stock trout, do you think we'd overharvest the native trout?
There are some people that would. Again, like I've been to some of
How
my
many
fisheries.
would we have left?
I see
I got it.
I see campsites with skeletons of 6-inch trout over the fire pit, and I'm like, what? You don't even get any meat out of that. It's like, what?
Yeah,
the
it
heck?
is true. Trout is
But-
not very meaty
but-
until they
but-
get bigger.
Yeah, but it would discourage, I think, a lot of those put and take people. Like I said, if we can concentrate the put and take people on certain rivers, then the other ones I think would definitely alleviate a lot of that pressure from the meat hunters.
Gotcha right there. Is there anything we as anglers can do to change the policies? My answer to that is make your opinions known. And I guess, you always could start a campaign. We could start campaigns to try to get change. But then you got to be, you got to have a uniform group of guys to do that. It takes a group to do that and say, hey, look, this is what we want, and get it to the right people. I mean, I guess that's that's government.
Well,
it's sometimes it's hard to change some of those things.
Yeah, well, and it's a lot established. So, like, downsizing the hatcheries probably not in the cards. They already have the hatcheries that are there. They're probably not going anywhere.
Right.
They support jobs.
That's what I'm saying. There's a money aspect to it as well. I mean, there's definitely that.
Now, protecting certain fisheries, you could certainly do. Like, I know of a couple tributary or headwaters that they're not really stocked heavily at all, but they're not protected either. Just protecting those, designating them as this and that, is a good way to maybe get those bigger fisheries back.
Gotcha.
Smallmouth wouldn't live in 1 year.
I don't think they would.
They stocked them back in the 80s.
Yeah.
They didn't reproduce. That was the big thing. They lived. They didn't reproduce there. There's not good spawning habitat for them.
Go to Amicalola Falls during the summer and watch the people pulling out those stock trout, and you can definitely tell. I'm kind of paraphrasing that it's people's food versus sport. They're doing it for food and all that.
Well, that's one of those delayed harvest places where they need to do it, or if they didn't do it, those fish would just
right. And Michael actually had a question along, and I don't even know if we asked it. He was asking what color Sebile were you throwing for?
I'm not big on color. I fish a Sebile so fast if they can check the paint on it. I'm not fishing it fast enough.
Do you mostly go though with something that matches? I mean, you go with the whites and stuff like that, or you get?
I've literally caught them on every color.
Okay.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. I like the natural that was the greenback one. Looks just like a herring. Yeah, there you go.
What do you think about some of these lakes like Allatoona, and then we could say Dinkery Log over here?
Dinkery Log.
Dinkery Log, where people need to actually take some of these smaller fish out. And he's saying spots on Allatoona, but I'm talking largemouth on Hickory Log over here.
We talked about Latham earlier. Latham was the same way back, when I was a kid.
A long time ago it was.
Like I said, taking is absolutely necessary in those, whether you're throwing them up on the bank or keeping them to eat them.
I think some of them spots guys would throw them on the bank in some lakes, not everywhere like that. So, let's see, looking at some of the things, Cooper's Creek gets sickening full of carcasses at the campsite. Yeah. But I think that some of those people make that trip up there for that. We're going to go catch some trout, cook them on a fire. But that might be a little different, but the holes, I know there's several right around here that I know the locals are sitting there. They know the stocking schedule, and they base their week based on the stocking schedule.
Absolutely.
But the problem is, and I'm not going to name names because I don't know them, but they'll catch it.
Schedule pops up on Facebook, man.
It does.
Here's where the truck's going to be.
They'll catch their limit, go somewhere for a couple hours, take them fishing. They'll come back and catch their limit again, and they'll do it over and over and over again until that thing is just
as a
sucked dry.
guide. I see that we do some. I like Rock Creek as just a fishery. It's got good wild fish and good stock fish. There's always people there. Like I said, me naming it's not going to do anything.
Right.
Numbers. It couldn't get more full.
Right.
But yeah, I see them do that all the time on Rock Creek.
Yeah, and there's only so many game wardens to go around that to enforce that.
Oh yeah, well yeah.
If
I hardly ever see game wardens. It's. I mean, I know they're out there, but there's just so much area to cover in North Georgia that, like I said, it's not a. I don't think it's a. What's the word? A government change that needs to happen with enforcement and all that. I think it's a cultural change that is really necessary.
And by saying that, you're talking about transitioning people from catch for food to almost like trophy managing, like with deer herds and stuff like that.
Yes.
Let the spikes walk. You have those. I totally get that. Has Tad ever caught fish on the fly? Does he like it or love it?
I have a little bit.
That's got to be Henry.
It is very it is very challenging. I'm not.
And that's what he does in the summertime. He goes and chases those jokers.
Yes, I know he does that down Morgan Falls area and all that. Like, I think it's really cool. I like doing it. I like the stalk that we were talking about. Stalking fish. That's absolutely a stalking, type deal.
Oh, for sure. Those fish are so spooky too.
I don't like handling carp. Like I said, I like hooking them, fighting them, and all that stuff. But after that, I'm never going to take a trophy picture. I've got one old picture with a decent carp I caught. I was proud of. That'll be the last picture I take with them.
I got you.
No respect for the poop
No
fish.
respect for the carp
Yeah,
right
it's
here.
not pretty enough for me.
That's got to be so fun.
They are ugly, but I can
they're-
imagine having a big one on the end of a fly rod.
Yeah,
That
gotta
would be
be
amazing.
cool.
Mine was probably a 6-7 pounder on a little 5 weight,
Yeah.
small creek.
Speaking of which, there was a question earlier. What's like your personal best?
Trout.
Yeah, trout, bass. I mean, anything. We'll talk with on the fly.
The first YouTube video I made, I was making it to teach people how to catch big fish. I caught a 28.5 incher. First video I ever made, I was like, oh, this is fitting. I thought I knew I was
Peaked
gonna,
right there.
I knew I was gonna,
Yeah, I was like the kid first time hunting. He shoots at 14.
well,
pointer.
I knew I was going to catch one over 20 inches. I didn't know it would be, that one is either tied with or maybe a little bit bigger than my former personal best, which was right at 28 too.
So you sound like a kayak guy when you're talking about inches. What equate that to us bass guys in weight?
that one probably weighed 13, 14 pounds.
It is kind of interesting to hear somebody say inches and inches and inches,
So-
and that
Yeah.
a lot of people like that. And I realize 28 inches. That's a hell of a fish.
That's massive.
But my mind automatically goes to how much did it weigh?
Yeah,
You
so,
know.
that was 13, 14 pounds.
Man, that is absolutely awesome. Pinkston, there's no such thing as a trophy carp. I think Henry would disagree with you on that.
Yeah, those are fighting words for
Please.
some people out in Colorado, and they're big into it.
Interesting comment from Philip. They electroshocked some smallies in the Toccoa recently as well.
There's a lot of smallies in the Toccoa. I thought that was more common knowledge. Yeah, they'll go.
No, there's nothing common with me and knowledge.
So from Blue Ridge, they'll go up the Toccoa a little bit in
Right.
the shoulder months,
Yeah.
and then down below. About midway down the Toccoa, below the dam, all the way to McCaysville, there's some good smallmouth. all the way down
Really?
there.
Yeah.
Now,
South
so,
of
go-
Horseshoe.
go
once
ri- go rip
once
your-
you get into town,
Go rip your jerk bait or Sebile. You
yeah.
know?
Once you get into town up there, you're in
Now-
smallmouth water.
I think Ryan was with me when this gentleman came in, and Ryan, correct me if I'm wrong, but he was talking about Georgia actually has a type of salmon in one of these rivers. Was that you, Ryan? Was you with us that day?
Really?
Yeah, guys,
Well,
it's not your
so, like,
what your typical
all-
salmon is. Like
all trout are the Salmona family, but
Yeah.
in Georgia, so in North
Other-
Carolina, they just started. I was talking with
That's one of the lakes up there is Cokes, doesn't it?
Yes, kokanee. So that's kokanee
That's
or
what
sockeye,
he's-
sockeye salmon.
is that what it was, Ryan?
So it's sockeye.
Yeah,
Sockeye.
sockeye.
Okay,
So
so
it's called a
but he
kokanee
said
when
there was
it's-
somewhere in Georgia that had them. It's not well known, but the guy that come in the
It'd just be
store,
a private. Yeah, it'd be.
I had
some
no.
private
I mean, I was just amazed.
it'd have to
that-
be a deep lake, like really deep. Maybe Carter's could have them.
I don't know if he was. He was
if they
talking about a
wanted to
river.
stop.
I wanted to say, but I might be. I might be wrong.
They
on
would
that.
live in a lake and migrate up the river. I don't think they'd.
But I
probably
mean, to
live in
say
a river.
to hear the word salmon and
Now-
Georgia is
Now,
kind of like really
the sockeye, the kokanee. They'll be hand size here when they're in fresh water.
Okay.
There's places out west they can get 3 to 5 pounds in
Okay.
those freshwater lakes and then migrate upstream. But here out east, like I said, I know they're doing it in North Carolina.
Yeah.
They're like big brim.
I'm going to ask you this. It has nothing to do with fishing, but it has a lot to do with fishing. Have you ever seen one of them hellbenders? Those big. I'm serious.
Yes.
Have you? Have you ever
I
seen
saw
one?
two.
Really?
They have a.
I'll let him tell his,
Well,
and then I'll
I
tell
don't.
mine.
I don't think I've seen a hellbender up in the Georgia mountains. Down in Louisiana, they have something called like a infuma or something. And
Right.
It makes the hellbenders look small. Like it's like double, triple the size. They're like 2-3 feet long.
I don't doubt
Crazy the way
that.
they
I don't
sound and
doubt being
everything.
big lizards in Louisiana and all that. So,
Yeah.
where did you see
No,
yours?
I saw two. I was on the Toccoa, just goofing off at Curtis. I was wet wading in the summertime, and I looked down, and there's big. It looked like just a big piece of junk coming down the bottom of the river, and it was two of them, jaw to jaw,
Locking.
death rolling,
Fighting.
fighting. Death
Wow.
rolling their ways down the river with each other. It was one of the wildest things I've ever seen.
I did see about a 6-foot timber rattler go over a waterfall earlier this summer and start swimming up on the
Oh
bank.
hell no!
It was.
My ass ain't getting back in that water.
I was guiding a little trio of guys from a bachelor party, and one guy was just struggling to set the hook on a fish. The other two had caught theirs. I was just trying to get this guy, and we see this rattlesnake go over the falls, and I was like, "Look at that! Is that a python? Like, it
Really?
was huge." And And we watch it come up on the bank. We were, safe distance and the opposite bank, so we weren't too worried. But we saw it go over there, like, good God, that thing is huge. Like, yeah, I'm good. I can.
Yeah, well,
I'll take my goose egg for the day.
Every-
That was the
Go ahead
coolest
and
thing.
call us
every
out.
year at some point, if you pay attention on a lot of the hunting Facebook pages, somebody is going down the Etowah River through Dawson Forest, and there's always a picture or two of a monster rattlesnake
Yep.
sunning on a rock or sitting there, and it's just like, I mean, and that's only a couple miles from here. I mean, that's a monster.
That was the first rattlesnake I'd ever seen. That's living out Oklahoma, Texas, and Louisiana for
I've
a
never
decade.
seen them.
Really?
I've seen a couple copperheads, but never run out.
Yeah.
Really? Now, I've not seen a diamondback like people said, but
Yeah.
I've seen out at Wilkes County where I hunt. We used to have a lot more hardwoods before they cut. I know we're talking about hunting, but they cut all the hardwoods out for some reason to plant pines back and all that. But when those hardwoods were there, when we'd go hunting, every year we would step on a couple of timber
See?
rattlers. Yeah, and that's kind of but what? Yeah,
Yeah.
but once they cut the hardwoods out, the timber rattlers, even though it's pines, the timber rattler sightings went way down. So I guess they
You
just
got
related to that.
squirrels or rodents in those
Mhm.
hardwoods.
Yeah.
We had our regional championship for college on Lake Somerville outside College Station. And it was the same lake that they ended up filming that big rattlesnake roundup show on. And I mean, every stump had like one or two rattlesnakes under
No,
it.
that
And
ain't.
I fished every single one of those stumps, and I still never saw a rattlesnake.
Timber rattler. Why not to get into Georgia fly fishing? Exactly.
I'm out on the water a lot, and that's the only one I've ever seen.
Here's a good question from Jeremiah. How much of Georgia fly fishing for trout is with dry flies versus nymph fishing? Very good question.
Depends on the fisherman.
On the wild trout water, the public stretches for the wild guys, 99% of my fishing is with dry fly.
Mhm.
Now for stockers, the opposite.
So when you throw in that dry fly, you're trying to get that graceful little thump come up, or do they hammer that joker? Do they just
They hit
suck
it really
in?
quick. The wild, I mean, you blink of an eye. You've got to be.
You got to be
quick.
so fast.
Yes, it is. It is all
Like-
about speed. So I tell people all the
Oh,
time,
it's
like
like,
with the
what's-
hook sets. Hook set, you don't have to be you're not driving the hook in like you would with a bass, but you have to be 10 times quicker than
Yeah.
you are with a bass hook set.
It's funny because you're expecting it, right?
Mhm.
Like you're staring right at that fly, and you'll still miss that
And
fish.
That's incredible.
Like,
in
you're
less than a
ready, and
second,
it's just-
if you're fishing over 3 foot of water, they'll come up from the very bottom, go all the way back down in less than a second.
If you look on our YouTube page, you'll see some videos we made. We went up with Daniel Massengale, and it was up in Blue Ridge, and I cannot for the life of me name it started with an N.
What the creek he
Yeah.
fishes, Hemptown, I think.
No,
is what
well, I
it's
mean, it might be
or Nantahula Creek
Nantahula or Nantahala.
Yeah,
Falls.
that'd
Nantahula
be-
is North Carolina. Yeah.
Okay, so that's not it, but it's a private section, and all that.
Nantahula.
Is that it? Might be.
He fishes Nantahula Creek Farms, and then that.
Yes.
that
Okay, that's it. So
Yeah.
we were videoing him fishing, and he's sitting in 6 to 8 inches of water, and the current is in a cut right there, and there's a big old tree that's like, kind of where it's like washed out underneath. And his eyesight was so good, I guess you guys you can start spotting him. He's like, there is a big rainbow underneath there. I see it. I'm looking at it. I'm like, I don't see nothing.
That's how I get that all the time, and it's more about training your eyes. So
Yeah.
if you're looking for these big trout, like we talked about the stalking earlier, first thing you look for is a shadow. Then you look for long silhouettes on the bottom because rocks aren't very long and thin and facing upstream.
Right.
So you're kind of looking for the shadow first, two, the silhouette. Then you'll start, then you'll maybe look for fins. The peck fins have little white tips on them that are kind of easy to see, or they're lighter in color.
Yeah.
Then you might look for the, caudal fin, the tail fin, kind of swaying a little bit.
If you watch
Yeah.
this video, this thing was huge.
Yeah.
And you could not, I could not for the life of me, when he hooked it, and I saw the size fish that he's fighting. Now, granted, I know it's
Give the
private,
head shake.
but
Yeah.
but it was like, hell, that's like 10 inches of water under the bank or something. He goes, it's there. I see it. It's there. And he worked it a couple times, and he nailed it. And I was like, I could not believe the size of the fish.
And on NCF, there's, some of those really big fish, they're territorial. Like, if it's a prime lie, you can also just know there's one there.
Yeah.
On a few of the waters I fish, I was like,
It's kind of like knowing the
Dude,
dock. This dock is always going to have fish on it. You know that's what you're
yes,
saying
Very similar.
when
to
you
that.
say that lie.
Yes.
That's got the fish in it and all that. I just found it was amazing the size of that fish that
they're-
come out of
their
such little water.
Camouflage is astonishing.
So lately, I've been doing a lot of the sight fishing, stalking for
Right.
big ones, and we'll creep up on the fish, and I mean they'll be 20 feet in front of people, and I mean to me, plain as day. I mean we're talking about a 2-foot long fish,
Right.
And I'm like, drop it right there. I was like, you see him? Like, drop it 2 feet in front of him. They're like, where is he? I was like,
Yeah.
oh
Yeah.
my God. I carry an extra rod to use as a laser pointer to point right at him.
Right
Like,
there, dummy.
I'm borderline poking the fish, and I'm like, he's right there.
Jeremiah wants to know, when you're talking about the dry flies, are you going straight dry or are you going dry dropper rig?
So there's two things I do on the public water, the wild water. I'll throw a big dry fly, usually the stimulator up top. Then I'll trail it with a much smaller dry fly in the back. I want the stimulator there. One, they'll eat it. Two, it's a better sighter, easier fly to see. That smaller one in the back, a lot of times in that quick water, will get sunken, and they'll either bite it on top or surface. Typically smaller fish, or if you're fishing really slow water, they like the smaller fly better than the big guy. So I'll do that. Dry dropper, if I'm fishing a particular fish that I can see, sight fishing, and I know he's not interested at all coming up to the surface, and I really want to catch him, then I'll just go ahead and switch that back fly with a dropper. And
And
fish
what
down
what
that
exactly is a dropper for us?
one. Just a wet fly, the subsurface
The
fly.
one that will sink.
Yes, so
For
you
us,
got your dry fly up top, dropper.
Okay,
below.
all right. Right there. When you toss streamers for browns, does Tad prefer to throw across and downstream or back upstream?
Spin fishing, guys,
The-
this is an
the-
important thing you're about to hear.
The answer is both, depending on the piece of water I'm fishing. So there's two types of bites. You've got your reaction bite, just like you with a lipless crankbait. I'll get downstream of them. If they're nestled up next to fast water, I'll throw it in that fast water, and I'm just going to rip it downstream. That's where you need that heavier fly to get down quick, because they want to eat towards the bottom. The closer that fly is to the bottom, the more likely you're going to get a good eat. And I'll rip it back downstream as quickly as possible. So that's the downstream to upstream approach. Fishing, I typically don't like fishing downstream. I'd rather fish dead across if
Right.
it's big enough water. And I'll make a little cast upstream of the target, let that lure get to depth, then I'll start working it.
So I assume trout are always facing upstream.
Always.
Always facing
Yeah,
upstream.
always.
So for somebody that, and I'm just going to say that's throwing a Panther Martin, one of these guys that don't do all the tech, I see them standing in the middle and they throw downstream and try to pull it up. Are you basically, you're bringing it by the fish
Think
from
of
the backside so that, the strikes can't be as good.
now in the wild water, the Panther Martin might get kind of like that lipless crankbait bite.
Mm-hmm.
In like the stalkers below the dam, when they're throwing those rooster tails, think of it more like a spinner bait. That blade's more just irritating them. It's just getting on their nerves, so they come and eat it. It's not. It's more of a reaction bite than or
Okay.
aggression bite than a food.
What is your opinion on guys with the spin cast fishing out trying to get these trout like that? Are you
I don't-
because I know there's a couple. I mean, I know that sometimes though there is a line that some people like. Fly fishing is the way to go. These guys are like
I'm not a snob on it at all. But
snob is a good word. I didn't. I didn't really know how to phrase that.
And I understand most of the guys that are fishing with spinning gear out there, like no one's ever taught them to fly fish or or how to be effective, because I can outfish a spinning rod nine times out of 10
with your fly fly stuff.
Yeah, so probably they're probably just don't have the time to learn, or just going out to enjoy being on the river, which everybody can.
If you're a guy that goes out tomorrow and buys a fly rod, and you're not going to go to the river, you're going to learn how to cast it first.
Mhm.
All right, and I know this is very hard to say it and not visually show it. What are some of the things that they can do in their yard to get started on making the right cast, the stuff like that? Is there? I mean, is do you have the 12 to 3, 12 to? Is there little tips of the thing, or 10-2 or whatever the hell it is?
Start with a shorter amount of line out first, and I would just do like a roll cast. The Orvis Learning Center is awesome. They have a guy that teaches all the casts.
Mm-hmm.
Quickest way to cut that learning curve. Then out in your yard, just do a little roll cast. Get the power right first. The amount of strength it takes to get your line to unfold all the way.
Mm-hmm.
And then once you start the 10 and 2, the back and forth, it's more about rhythm. It's like learning to dance. You're
Right.
1-2 step.
Yeah,
stuff
right.
like that. So it's the same way. Get that rhythm going, and start slow. and then work long. A lot of people, they go out, they pull out 20 feet of line, and they're trying to make, or 30 feet of line. They're trying to make the long cast first, and it's disaster waiting to happen.
In Georgia, with all the overhanging stuff, is it really necessary to make those big, long, kind of, you see them out west, those guys?
You never have to. If you're good with your stalking, it's not really necessary.
And that goes back to getting within 20 feet, like y'all were talking about, making that 20-foot cast.
And the other big thing in Georgia you lose, we were talking about how quick they bite. If
Right.
you're making a 30-foot cast and you've got to pick up whatever slack you've got on the
whiff
water,
on 'em.
and the amount of time it takes you to come to tension with 30 feet of line out is little more than it takes for the trout to spit it out.
Right there. So I guess Henry's going to sign off for tonight. Henry, we appreciate you. And again, we're thinking about you, buddy.
Thanks so much, Henry.
Class act guy like that. So, but if you transition to like what Beasley used to do, going after the brim and stuff like that, and now you're on a boat. Now you can get into them longer casts or the same.
That's a good way to do it. And I guess the number one tip I see people make, the rod moves in a parabolic fashion. You don't want that. You want your rod tip moving in a straight line, and that line will naturally stay away.
So you're not whipping it so hard that your poles.
It takes a lot
I
of
say
guys
pole, yeah.
start with too much power every time.
Do you call it a pole or a rod? Always. I'm just curious. Have you ever heard
I
of
think
flag?
I've used
Fly
both.
pole.
Fly pole? I'm just curious.
Yeah, I never say fly
This is what
pole,
my
but-
brain
Yeah.
thinks.
Yeah,
Fly rod.
I usually go with rod, but I don't.
Stick.
What's that?
I seen a guy up in Helen one time I went up there, and they were like, he was tossing his fly into like a little hula hoop. But he was like walking around the hula hoop in this field, and he was basically teaching people how to fly fish. But like his arm, I know you can't see me, but like his arm action while he was walking was literally like this much.
So it
And he
didn't
was
take
like-
a lot.
he
That's
was
what you're
like
going to
20
say.
feet around from
So
the hula hoop.
another good tip: start with less power. Guys always start with too much, and then have to work their way down. When you start with too much, you run into problems, knots, and all that
Right.
stuff.
Yeah.
If you start slow, you don't get those knot problems, and it's a little bit easier.
Back
to fine
cast
tune.
less or false cast less.
Yeah.
Okay, well, let me ask you this. Because we have this conversation all the time, going braid to fluoro. Fly line to your leader.
So-
Not them little screw things. I've seen them little things that stick in the end. I've seen them things where it's got like barbs on it. where you just
Needle.
stick
Yeah,
like a
yeah, that's
needle
what-
thing.
So most fly lines come with the loop,
With the loop
already
now.
welded.
Oh,
in.
do they now?
Yes,
Okay,
yeah,
so
yeah.
that shows you what
Unless
I
you
know.
buy a really cheap one.
Well, yeah, the one you want to buy and use will have a welded loop.
If you're gonna spend
Okay.
money with fly fishing, spend it on the line. I go line first, rod second, reel not really even necessary as much. You can go
Right.
cheap there. Some people say rod is the one to spend the money on. I like the good lines. You'll get your bang for your buck back quicker. Performance wise, you might get a little bit more out of a higher performing rod, but they're the best lines out there will last twice as long as the average ones, and they're less than twice the cost.
All right, here's my next question. Backing.
It's not necessary. It's essentially
I was just
Yeah.
curious because I've seen where they got like a bunch of backing on it, then their fly line. I mean,
it'll make your fly line last longer, and it's cheap. It's like $6 for 200 yards.
And is that really the purpose of it? I mean, what is the purpose of it?
So your fly line is only 100 feet long. If you get into a big one that takes you 100 feet downstream,
Okay.
you're out of line. So that's where
Okay,
backing
I
comes
got it.
into
So that's
play.
what backing is. So it's not. It's more for that, not for.
It's
but
no,
it- but
you
it
don't
will.
use it. You're not casting it at all. You'll never cast that far.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
That's just in case.
Yes.
Just
Yes,
in case.
That's just in case you hook a hog.
Okay, that makes perfect sense. So, guys, we're getting in about an hour and 42 here. So, get your questions. Make sure if you get more questions, start getting them in so we make sure we can get them answered. What's the secret to the perfect double haul fly cast to maximize shooting line?
You do it a lot.
Practice.
Do it a lot.
Okay, well, explain shooting line.
Rhythm. So so when you have, you have 20 feet of line out of the rod tip, right? But you've also got 20 feet, below your hand that you're using. So in your double haul, you're pulling, pause, pull, go forward, pull, pause, go back, pull, go forward. And after, on your release, that 20 feet of line that's sitting at your feet shoots out that rod tip, essentially.
Gotcha.
So that's what shooting the line is.
Shooting the line.
And
What if you're using 6-pound fluoro as your leader? How do you attach it to the fly line?
So
Loop knot.
a big key for beginners. spend the money on the tippet rings. It's just a tiny, tiny ring you can tie at the end of your leader. It'll save you a lot of money by not chewing up your leader.
Yeah.
And then, but the other way to do it is, I use a triple surgeons. The only two knots I use for fly
what
fishing.
now?
It's a triple surgeons knot.
I love the name of all these knots. These just,
Oh, well, that's.
Well,
I mean,
it's like
same
an
thing.
overhand knot that made
what,
good.
blood knot. What are they using bass? What's the common one?
Uni to
Bass
uni.
fishing going
Uni to uni.
So instead of a uni, triple surgeons. I use triple surgeons
So-
over the uni.
So Ron, what you're thinking of is basically the front end of your fly setup has like 3 pieces, such as it is. You have the terminal end of the actual fly line, where you've got your welded loop. Then you're gonna have a loop knot to your tapered leader, and that's what gives you the power to really unroll on that shot.
And the leader, best way to explain it, it starts at 30-pound mono, ends
And
at
then next
5-pound
down
mono.
to like 5-pound mono.
Yeah, it
and
tapers.
then you're gonna have like your
Okay.
blood knot or your triple surgeons, and that's where you're like your 6-pound fluoro. That's like your tippet. That's where that comes in, and that's essentially just kind of. And you may correct me if I'm wrong here. Just like a sacrificial kind of piece of line to keep you from chewing up your taper.
That and,
quite so much.
And a lot of times that fluoro might be sinking if you're using nymphs. You know, you
Yeah.
might put your indicator right there at the end of your leader, which is mono, so it'll stay on the surface, and then that fluorocarbon will drop subsurface.
man,
Yeah.
I am absolutely lost. But I find it incredibly
Dude,
interesting.
What's funny is like if you did it once or twice,
It would,
Like,
it
it would
seems so
just-
common sense.
yeah,
It's-
you'd be like, oh,
it's
okay.
that makes
Yeah.
sense.
But, so fishing farm, Eric, I saw you roll your eyes at the double uni knot. Why, Eric, did you roll your eyes at the double?
because he
uni
wants to
knot?
tie an FG real bad to show everyone he can do it.
Kind of like trying to grow that beard, right?
Oh,
So like that. I've never used actual tippet, just mono or fluoro line. That's what.
Same thing. Same
Same
so,
thing, yeah.
So fly fishing fluorocarbon is a little bit higher grade. Well, now I noticed the bass, the really really nice bass lines, the one the Tatsu or some of those really nice ones.
Gold.
They're the
Gold
same
labels.
as the fly lines now. Fly lines still might be the really really nice fly line fluorocarbon.
Little
tippets
less
are a
diameter
little bit
for
better.
weight,
Yes, the
for
the
test.
diameter to weight is a little. Bit
I won't lie, like if you guys do both, like if I have the backside of a spool of fluoro that I put on a reel, that's about to be tippet.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah. hell yeah.
When I'm guiding, I use 6 and 4 pound bass fluorocarbon
Yeah.
because people are in trees all day. I'm not, I don't want to spend a fortune getting those, and the stalkers don't care.
What's a what?
What's a leader knot?
What is a leader knot?
Why are we even?
So at the top of your leader, you'll just have a perfection loop,
you'll just
or
have a loop
there'll
knot,
already
yeah.
be a loop. So you just do a loop. To
That'd be a
loop.
Raffle a knot for you, Ryan.
Oh, good grief! There's just too many knots.
Oh no, I only use 2. Well, I guess 3 if you count the loop knot. Like a loop knot's just simple. That's
Yeah, I know, but it's like just like you said, you guys call it one thing, and in the bass fishing world, it's another
it's
thing.
the same
or
thing.
similar.
So I,
They're-
I,
they're-
I
I've
just
never heard any-
They're the same knots.
I used a clinch. Like a clinch is all I
Yes.
use. Same thing bass guys have used
Right.
for forever. And then like the triple surgeons is just another one you can use instead of a uni, or a triple surgeons is better when you're gumming from 2 different diameter lines that are comparable but not the same. Like if you did a
Right.
uni from like 20-pound test to 10-pound test, it would slip
Yeah.
pretty quickly.
Right.
Where a triple surgeons has a little more grip to it.
I find all this absolutely fascinating.
It's funny because it's much like bass fishing. Everybody has their kind of
Well, and there's
their
fly,
preferences, right?
there's fly fishermen who just it's like they like to brag about knots. Like, oh,
Like-
I
Oh, there's bass
like-
fishermen too.
It's
there.
like I can't
Beasley.
tie a
It's
surgeons for
not a hard
beans.
knot.
Like I tie a blood that I'm confident in, and that's what I fish.
Exactly.
Right.
It's what you're confident in.
and there's fly fishermen that don't have like 20 knots in the rig. And I
Yeah.
come from the bass. I want as few knots as possible. A knot is just another.
Well, you build your
spot
own
for
you build your
the
own
line
leader,
break.
right? You cut in your 20-pound butt, and then you knot down to your 15, and you knot down to your 12, and you knot down
Yeah,
to
look
your
at that,
10.
Pinks, and y'all just knot snobs, and that's exactly right. I'm like,
it-
I've been tying
I mean,
the same knot since I was like
I-
8.
That's-
I've never changed.
I used to just
I tie like 3 or
until
4,
I started
maybe.
Yeah.
until I started guiding. I didn't use that triple surgeons. I literally only used clinch.
It's so much
I used to
faster.
tie clinch to clinch.
But yeah.
Really? Yeah. What is the worst mistake? And we may have covered it again, but I want to reemphasize that. A guy going out and buying a fly gear tomorrow or whatever. What's the worst mistake a newbie makes?
In buying a rod?
in anything getting started?
Not that when they approach the water, they'll just walk right in, send a huge wave, and like they're not fishing for. Those fish are spooked before they even make.
It was
cast.
funny. Jeremiah brought up the lateral line thing earlier. So there's a run that I like to fish on the tailwater, and I call it the classroom because I learn a lot there. And I remember one time, like coming up from the rapid below this run, and it's glass water, like it's flat and it's real slow, and it's lousy with fish. There's just a million little browns and whatever else in there. And I remember walking up into that hole, and it was perfect and flat out. And the first step I took, the number of fish that immediately scattered. I mean, I'd be a liar if I didn't say it was 3 dozen. I mean, from 50, 75, 100 feet, as far as I could see into the water, they all reacted immediately.
So
Interesting.
I tell my people
they're very perceptive.
I tell my clients, approach from downstream, walk like a heron. Like you've seen a heron stalk in the water.
Yeah.
Kind of imitate that. Like we don't want to be pushing a lot of water up and spooking the fish. And that's just a good way. You'll learn a whole lot more, by just starting slower. The big difference that when the bass fishermen come in, they want to make 1,000 casts to get bit once. Trout fishing is the opposite. You want to make that one perfect cast and you'll catch one fish. So you can kind of.
You got to be a lot more precise.
You can call your shot. Like I'm sure y'all do it in the bass boat. You're like, oh, I'm getting one on this one.
Absolutely, yeah.
But a lot of times it's luck, or like sometimes you're pretty confident that you'll get bit there, but it's not always guaranteed. With trout fishing, it can be guaranteed. There's days I could get on the water and make 10 casts and catch.
Like
10
when you
fish.
really, and that's a whole nother thing. Like reading the water, and really like approaching a run, and this is where the fish are going to be. This is where the fish that's going to eat is going to be.
That's bigger. Yep.
And making that one, and that's what we were talking about earlier. Like, I don't want to make an average 50-foot shot. Like, it looks cool, but it's not effective.
Yep.
I want to approach that run correctly. I want to identify where that fish that's going to eat is going to be, and I want to make one good 30-foot shot or 20-foot shot and lay it in there.
That's another good one in finding hungry trout.
Right.
If you have a pool that's barely moving, water's barely flowing in it, and you see just some fish lounging around, those are going to be pretty tough to get to bite. If you go find some where fast water meets softer water, a fish in fast water, you can almost guarantee he's going to be eating. He wouldn't be expending that energy to be in that fast water if he wasn't actively eating. So that.
Do they ever go back and forth? Like they'll be spending time and they'll cruise up there to the slow water just to chill a little bit, and then
they will. It usually doesn't happen like that. It happens over the course of several hours.
Gotcha. That's
No, I mean, you definitely. It's the same as we would in like bass fishing, or like you guys are talking about it on Lanier right now, right? Where they run herring or they run shad in a ditch for a couple hours, and then the sun gets up and they pull out, and they sit out in 30, 40 feet of water all day until they get hungry.
Hang in treetops.
Yeah, until they get hungry again, and then they run right back in that ditch and just smash bait again for a while. Like trout are the same way.
Now, with that said, trout will eat for longer. Like you see those the bass bite dies off, about 9 o'clock sometimes.
right.
Trout typically are eating most of the time. They don't have those lull times as long.
Really? Okay,
Yeah,
that's interesting too. We're getting close towards the end of the show, and I want to make sure that I give you the proper time for people. First of all, how can they find you to book a trip?
So, we've got a Facebook, Instagram.
Georgia Wild.
Yeah, Georgia Wild Trout on all of them. Then
Right.
website, georgiawildtrout.com. Reach out to me there. You can shoot me an email, give me a call. If you've got any questions, I'm happy to answer them. If you got a kind of time frame you're looking at, we can work with that just whenever we're open. So,
And a guy can tell you, he can say, I want to go hunt trophies.
oh, absolutely.
And so they can do a trophy trip, they can do a newbie trip, just whatever.
Yep. Yep. And there's certain waters. There's some waters that are more conducive for beginners. If you just want to get bites, like if you want numbers of bites, like you want 40 bites in a day.
Right.
Some of the smaller fish on the wild water are going to be a little bit better most of the year. If you want kind of a mix, we can go after some stockers and some wild fish, get you 20 bites in a half day or something.
Right.
And you get a little mix of both. And then the trophy fish, they're not guaranteed. You've got to be, pretty good or on your stuff for the most part. So no guarantee, but I can get you a good shot at them, just about any time of year.
And you pretty much cover all of North Georgia.
Yeah, I'll go anywhere. I know. So when I'm not guiding and I'm fishing on my own time, I don't fish the same place twice. I'm always exploring. I'm looking for, new water. Maybe I find some place where I can count on some trophy fish being all the time. Maybe I find a spot where we can get 40 bites in, 4 hours. So,
yeah. That's awesome. And you mentioned earlier in the show about a YouTube channel.
Yes. Just started a YouTube channel. I'm by no means a pro yet. I've got some work to do, but everything in there is very educational. It's more geared towards beginners. I send it to my clients before we go out, just so they can get an idea. Hey, this is what I do if I get a big one on. This is the cast I'll make. This is kind of the mindset I need to be in to stalk fish rather than just go out and make a ton of casts. Not great, but getting better. Maybe I'm a little bit tougher critic, but on myself. But
well, we all are like that.
There.
So, Paul, you got anything else, or you think we've covered? I mean,
tip your guide, feed your guide.
always
Tiffany.
say that. There you go. You always say that. Well, first of all,
Okay, is it not important? Tip your guide, feed your guide.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Like-
Well, maybe not feed your guide.
Well, you weighed.
Yeah.
So like boat snacks aren't really
yeah.
the deal for you that they would be like.
I get so focused when I'm fishing. I'll fish for 12 hours and forget to eat. I just get zoned in.
so does Farmer. If you ever go fishing with Jonathan Farmer, pack a lunch. Because I thought we were going to fish like
Pack your own lunch?
Yeah, seriously. Because I mean, like he said, we got up on Notley. I'm okay. Hell, we're going to fish till lunch and go get something to eat. 4:30 later, he's still fishing. I'm in the back of the boat. Fat boy was hungry.
all I'm saying is that
hungry.
even trout fishing, that guy's like rowing the boat all day. You work up an appetite rowing a boat. Like
With trout fishing, if we're on some of those faster flowing public waters further north, the client always taps out first. Like they tell me when to stop because
That'll drain you so
the
fast.
grass is always greener around the next bend in the river. Like I just keep on going.
Right.
I can't.
100%.
I don't break focus.
I mean, is that not really like river fishing?
That's
in
what I was
general,
saying,
though?
Farmer.
Is like that next turn where you can't see. Well, that's obviously where they're going to be.
It's the same feeling as the last cast. Like
100%.
There's less of a last cast in fly fishing. It's more of like a last hole. Like ooh, that hole up there, and then it's like oh, and that hole up there. Like it
I
just
said one more hole, and I'm going to sling it and go home.
Until you find a lay down tree across the river that you're too lazy to
2 hours
do some
later.
gymnastics over, you keep on going.
That's why I love straight rivers, because you can look all the way
Just
over
straight
there.
rivers like that.
That doesn't sound like a very good river at all.
Yeah, that's what we need to. We need to get LJ, who is a notorious drop shotter on Lanier, to book a trip with you because he's that casting stuff like that. It's not for
Yeah,
him,
he has
so.
trouble casting. You should see it.
I heard he
It's
can't
pretty
cast.
Is
bad.
it bad?
Well, I try to teach him a little bit,
So
especially with
now
that
that-
bait cat. He doesn't know what a bait.
Now that is he like the cast queen then?
Oh my goodness.
LJ, the cast queen, the drop shot Jedi.
Well,
and the
he's a guy
cast
he's a
queen.
guy that's sponsored by Cast King, but he can't cast.
Yeah, he can't.
Casting sucks. Casting sucks. I mean, it's overrated, guys. He don't need it. He don't need it. Well, anyway, Tad, listen. First of all, thank you for coming up here. And
Thanks for having me.
we don't do. We actually and Paul and I talk about this. Sometimes we get so bass heavy that we don't seem to realize that there's so much more out there, to do, and it's interesting. I think I need to get a fly rod.
Fish
I think
all
I
of
would
North
like
Georgia.
to do
Dan.
that.
Like
Fish
it-
all
it-
of
Fish
North Georgia.
all. We are fish North Georgia.
It'll-
We got-
all of
yeah.
North
It'll open your eyes to fishing current. Like if you ever fish any of the TVA lakes that are pumping, you'll really understand how fish position. Now trout use current more than bass do, but kind of same concepts apply.
See, it's just all interrelated. The good Lord weaved and winded all together, so it's all that. Well, listen, I'm serious. I appreciate you coming up here, and then we need to get you back on in the future, and maybe after I throw a fly rod, maybe I'll go with Paul one of these days. He'll take me to
Maybe
the
I'll
classroom,
The classroom.
to the classroom, and I'll learn how to do that. Farmer says he's got one that I can borrow.
I've got one you can use.
I think it'd be
We
fun.
got you.
I have to go buy some waders though.
Well,
That's
this
a
time
whole
of year-
nother
well,
thing.
so
Yeah, this time of year, yeah.
I just put a little article on my website for people that are brand new trying to get into Georgia fly fishing. And one of the first things I said on there was like, look, if you want to do it on a budget, just to kind of get in, fish late spring, summertime. You don't need waders.
you
I
wet wade
always
everything.
wet
Yeah,
waders.
yeah.
Wet wade
I
everything.
hate waders.
Man, I think I thought you had to have the waders. You had to have the necktie with all the snips and all that stuff on there. I mean, I thought there was a way to
absolutely
dress for this
I
thing.
fished out of a fanny
certain
pack
hat?
the first 4
Yeah,
years.
absolutely
I fly fish. I
not.
still kind of like the fanny pack.
I got one
Dude,
question for you.
I'll go there. Like, the more like kitted out a guy is, probably the less legit that
Absolutely.
guy
Yeah,
is.
is that the way?
Absolutely.
Is that the way it goes?
It's one of the, they're either really really good or they're just overdoing it.
Gotcha. Yeah, Philip, we definitely can do that. So one question just popped into my mind real quick before I let you go. Guy, is camouflage or softer colors like browns and stuff much more important?
Absolutely.
So guy comes in with a big
Oh, the Floridians come in with their saltwater gear. You know, they're wearing that fluorescent peach color. I'm like, you're catching half as many fish today as anybody else.
because it's that important.
Yes,
It just
absolutely
popped,
is.
and I'm sure that's probably a given, but just I can imagine you have guys showing up that,
bright red.
yeah, and that's a
Like-
big no-no.
Oh, God, yeah, don't- yeah.
That's funny.
Especially if you're going for brook trout, just call it a day. Like we'll just.
Yeah.
We'll-
No,
we'll-
red's-
they
red's
say
a
you
bad
sit in
one
the
color
truck and
for me
They're
anyway,
they're sitting
dude.
back like, look at this guy.
Yeah, well, yeah, exactly. They're more like, oh god, yeah. They're,
Well, it's like
they freak out over
what's
anything.
a trout's like field of vision or just a fish in general? Like
I-
they can see
I
more than
usually say
180,
about-
can't they?
Yes. They see about 15, 20 degrees behind their eyes is kind of what I've
And
felt out.
how far can they see forward? I mean, like, what are we talking?
Forward.
Well,
Like, if they're just looking at
more
wherever.
so
I mean,
than,
what
more
if,
so than seeing forward, they recognize current disturbance. So
Yeah.
if you
Ooh,
walk,
okay,
walk
there you go.
in front of their line, and they feel that pressure different.
like,
they know
oh, hey,
something's-
something that they felt
That's-
something in the force.
That's like we're
Yes, yeah, they know something.
Well, it's like we're talking
They're
about the
very
lateral line.
interconnected.
Like they've got that extra sense for
Yeah,
stuff
well,
behind
kind of
them.
like deer and their smell. Like
Oh,
you
gosh, don't tell me
wanna
about
be,
that.
you
Yeah, I
don't want
know.
to be upwind. Like
Yeah, I know. I definitely. Well, listen, got a comment there. Thanks for the interesting and neglected type of fishing. We're going to try to do a lot better at changing things. We'll always, treat the bass guys like that, but we're going to try to explore it ourselves because this is something like I'm sitting here I don't know what we're talking about, and I'm trying to learn it as you say, and I got a pretty good idea, but it's still. It's kind of like a bucket list kind of thing. I want to go catch this kind of, but you got to learn it and you got to figure that stuff like that. So, again, thank you very much for spending time and
thank you for
driving.
having me.
You live in Cumming, right?
Yeah.
So it's not too far of a drive,
Oh,
but
no,
we're still
no,
out the
30
boonies.
minutes.
So everybody, LJ cries every time he comes up here. He acts like he's going across Egypt to get here.
Corey drives for him, probably.
I know Corey does drive. That's why LJ's done got to the age where Corey's got to do it. We know he can't see. So, all right, guys, listen. Thank you. Lots of thanks again for the winner of the guide trips. Those that bid, I'll be in touch with you. Scott Williams, Bill Holcomb, winner of the raffles.
Congratulations.
That's awesome, and I will get your prizes to you, and well, as far as the gun, we'll figure out how you have to meet and go because you still got to pass a background check and all that. You still got to do all that stuff. So, but I can definitely get you doing that, guys. Again, start planning for Jimbo's coming up. Jimbo's Expo coming up in January, and again next Thursday we're planning on having Dana Smith with FCP Fishing. We will be back talking about bass fishing and stuff on the northern side of Lake Lanier, and also again go ahead and prepare for this. 2 weeks. The Festivus episode, December 23rd, that Thursday night. The airing of grievances. That show is going to be dedicated to whatever just pisses you off. We're going to talk about it. You can let it loose, and it'll be a good, safe place.
Come on back for that one, man.
Yeah,
I was
you
about to
should.
say, that
We'll
one
put
sounds fun.
We'll put you in
Well,
the
you
chair.
know
for
you're
five
always
for-
welcome every Thursday night. Just come up here and hang out.
That would be funny just to get like the lineup for that show and just switch
Switch it out.
people
Let
every
them let 'em just come in here and say, this is my
Everybody
problem.
Gets a 5 minute
Just-
range.
yeah,
Look at
just
that,
let it
Harmon.
rip.
I'm right
Just
here.
let it
So,
rip.
Facebook user, this was awesome, and I learned a lot. Thanks. Well, thank you, first of all, for spending time and your time watching us. We appreciate it more than you know. We love the guys. Ron Swinford's on here. He's been on here every single episode, and he actually came to the store, and we met him, and it was actually good to put a face with a name. So all you guys are welcome. And again, on a Thursday night, that's how Beasley got up here, and look, we put him on camera. I don't know. I mean, he's graduated
that
from a
works for me,
stalker to
too.
yeah. It did you. Same thing. You
Yeah.
come up here and you just become part of the family. But again, guys, go to the Fish North Georgia page on Facebook, the group page especially. That's the interactive page. Make sure you join that and give us a follow if you're watching on YouTube. Spread the word a little bit. And again, we appreciate you guys very much. And we will see you next Thursday.